AskGunQuestions.com is a website that we built back in 2007, and since then, for the last 15 years, people have been able to ask questions of simple to advanced nature, and we attempt to answer them in different ways over the years. Join us now as we start a new series to answer gun questions.
Hey, welcome everybody. I'm waiting for my thing to pop off here and interrupt us, but I guess it's not gonna. So we go live every Saturday, like the thing said. There it goes. Interrupt us, but weird. So just had I was just anticipating my own video popping up and interrupting us, and it took a minute and did. We go live every Saturday to answer questions, and often we get sidetracked, but that's just the nature of the beast, I guess. I am going to open up the list over there today, though, right when we get started here, as I introduce Tony, who's joining us from New Jersey, and you've got a diversity shoot coming up on Thursday, if I'm correct.
Yes, sir. Diversity shoot's coming up on Thursday at Recoil Range in Monroe, New Jersey. I decided to do something different this particular time. It's really weird. I don't know what best way to put word out. Like if I tell people a month or 2 months ahead of time when the date's going to be, and I remind them like once a week, and then twice a week, and then the last week, like 3 times, I might not get people there. So this time I waited, and I'm just going to saturate you every day with posts, and let's just see what that turns into. Like I'm trying to find a sweet spot of notification.
You know, that's an interesting dilemma or whatever circumstance, because you're not alone for sure. You're unique in the fact that you're bringing people to a physical location, which is challenging in itself. Mm-hmm. And then, the subject of it and in the area of the country that you're in, it just becomes all that much more frustrating and difficult. But that's the same kind of question somebody might have for a live show, right? Or something else, some kind of content they're creating, or some kind of maybe a sale at a store or something. So I think my first response to that is it kind of depends. Like each year you're going to have different, different reasons that people want to do something like this, different, reasons they want to do it. And so in other words, your messaging last year, or maybe 3 years ago, I guess now, would be different than messaging today because, well, one, people have grown, but, they're just interested in different things. We were just talking off air about, a different tangent that someone approached you on. And that might be, now that they're comfortable with your diversity shoot as an entity, now they're thinking of it like, oh, I know that it happens every month, or I know that it happens at these different ranges. Anyway, it's just different than when you had it last year with fewer, well, I guess it wasn't fewer, but, less time on the clock. So people might have thought, well, I better get to it right away, or I got to get my friends to it. Now they've had their friends to it. Now you're having a different conversation with them because now you're talking either to their friends or bring your friends, more friends, as opposed to check it out for the first time. So I guess I'm not making
exactly.
Just showing you that there's a lot of frustration to this or angles to it. I guess you could have
crazy because
welcome and you've never shot before, show up, have that messaging going all the time, and then kind of cycle back and forth between, hey, have you been before? It's time to come back. Hey, have you been before? Come back and bring somebody, like a challenge. Like you can have a couple of messages, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, especially now. I mean, Thursday's event is going to be the first event after the both, I guess, brace decision and the bump stock decision. It's going to be that. So there may be questions about that. So I have to brush up, what does it mean to people in Jersey?
How annoying is it that I've seen a couple of memes already where, yeah, that happened, but New Jersey, California, Connecticut, Rhode Island, I think, Massachusetts, I'm sure. I mean, I think Trump even said Florida are all states that still ban the bump stock specifically. So even though this has been challenged nationally, we still have the fight in those states. And unfortunately, that's a fight in each individual state because they're not going to just say, oh, dang, we lost. Let's get rid of that
law. And then the great thing about it is I've said it, others have said it. I'm like, this is not a I understand it's a firearms related issue, but it is not a Second Amendment issue. This is government overreach that they think they can change language, thereby changing the rule, thereby creating a law without any repercussions or any involvement of the legislative branch. And that's not how laws work, bro. You can't do that. And I think that is important.
Right, because when the legislative branch is touching it, that means we're the ones instigating it or allowing it. Either way, we should be instigating it. But if nothing else, if somebody instigates it, we allow it, type of thing, through voting and all that. But I think that's a great way to describe it, that it's a gun issue, but not a two-way issue. And that's so succinct. I don't think anybody has got it that cut and dry, but that's exactly, because I've heard a lot of people bitch about it, that it's not a two-way thing. It's not a two-way thing. But I think that cuts the line better, that it happens to be about guns, but it's really, I forgot, what is it, 14th Amendment or something, 5th Amendment? It's some other amendment issue, because like you just said, the wrong branch of government is just deciding what laws are based on they have the authority to deal with other laws.
Yeah, and my whole issue is, how in the heck is the Supreme Court justice? You go, yeah, I'm gonna no, that's okay. And I'm like, no, that's not okay. It's not okay at all. It makes no difference what your personal feelings are about firearms at all, because that is secondary. Again, like you said, my state, I can't have a bump stock anyway. So it's like states can still ban this stupid thing. My whole issue the entire time was banning it is not the ATF's job. And they need to know their role, and they might need to be smacked back into their role. But as far as an effective accessory, bump stock sucks, other than it's fun. You know what I mean? Like, it's not something I would recommend to anybody outside of have fun at the range with.
I don't even know. I mean, that gives it the credibility that it doesn't deserve, also, because it's fun once. It's like that singing bass. Like, oh, that's a novel looking thing, but I don't want it. Like, that might be a fun gift to give somebody because you think it's a funny gift or something, but honestly, it works shitty. And I don't know how to explain it. It's like a bad accessory. It's like a weird cup holder for your car. You don't want it. You might give it to somebody as like what do they call that? A white elephant gift or something? Or is that what it's called? Where you kind of anonymously give a gift. Like, I got to give something. I'll just give this. It seems good. I mean, I've seen on TV or something. But anyway, when people shoot them, it's a real skill. And it's like learning to use a truck stop implement instead of an actual tool. A truck stop gimmick device instead of a tool to do a job. So it's never going to do a job well. And the credibility that it's given is unfortunate, I think, because any legitimacy it's been given is unfortunate, because it's essentially a novelty thing that didn't work good, but because it scared a bunch of people and so many people were willing to sacrifice it, it got to where it is today. And it's
exactly
a cautionary tale, or it's like something that we should be aware of, like this can happen to us. Because I mean, well, I'm going on and on. It's like a bipod. Like, who gives a shit about bipods? Like, hunters kind of care about bipods. Once in a while, somebody thinks it looks cool on their gun, but we don't care about them at all. But if it somehow scared the shit out of somebody, and they made a big campaign about bipods, and everybody was like, "Well, I don't even use a bipod." That's where we're in trouble, when they use that shit against us.
And there were a lot of gun people that were like, "This is not the hill I'm gonna die on." And I'm like, it's not about dying on the hill, you twit. It's about government going, yeah, we just made up something. We're going to bypass the Constitution and do what we want to do. That was a government agency that decided that. That needs to be shut down painfully and embarrassingly. And it's like, I mean, Tom Grisham was like, this is not the hill I want to die on. Not Tom Grisham. Hold on. Nope. The other guy, white-haired, mustache, wears a hat.
Bain.
Michael Bain. Yep. Michael Bain said that. And I'm like, bro, it's not the point. You missed the point.
And again, it's, I think, the differentiation between gun and 2A. Like, they see that it's a gun thing, so they feel like they should comment on it, but they're missing that it's a bigger, what's the word? Like, it's a bigger mechanism, or it's a bigger issue, because the power you're giving the government to do that I mean, they can do anything. Like, oh, you can't sell that milk. What are you doing wearing that clothes? Or, whatever they come up with, whatever the thing of the day is, the concern of the day is, they'll just start making laws about it at the enforcement level instead of at the let's write a law level.
And no one will be held accountable when you get snatched up, dragged off, whatever, and they go, yeah, wait a minute, what? No, that's illegal. What are you doing? Oh, okay. Yeah, the administrator 3 administrations ago said that was okay, and we've been doing it ever since. So yeah, release the guy, and sorry that you lost your job and broke up your family and whatever. We just changed what a word meant. It's like, no, that's not how any of this works, or at least should work. And we shouldn't be our own worst enemy allowing that to happen. So I'm glad it turned out like it did. Go ahead, celebrate, clap your hands, but don't lose the point. And instead of, I haven't really argued with the idiots online on Twitter because, again, my point is totally different. It's bigger than the gun issue. EPA tried it too and got shut down because of it, because they tried to change wording last year and they got shut down. I think that's important to keep in mind because, again, we're trying to get everyone on the same page. If you want to argue and don't want bump stocks, cool. Take up the same legislative process everyone else has to do. Write your elected official and try to get the ball started that way. But as far as this is concerned, we should all be on the same side. But financially, others have a stake in it. Moms and man want to be on one side, and more than likely, some of our Second Amendment organizations want us to continually see it as a 2A issue so they can increase their funding. And see, we won. We did this for you guys, and it was like, yeah, but it wasn't really okay. Thanks, you guys are awesome. This wasn't a Second Amendment issue.
Well, that being said, we've been around for a while, and part of this show is to offer advice from people who have been around for a while. I've got 2 things to bring up. I'm going to put it in here so I don't forget the other one. What can we, or what you just said, what we should learn from it, but in reality, and realistically, I guess, I think realistically is the right word. Like, what do you think if any, what do you think we can learn? Because I don't think it's the same group of people as it was with other fights. I'm thinking of this fight with the bump stocks as kind of a long-term theoretical gun fight that we have. So something like the bans on imports, or the bans on types of ammo, or some of the other little kind of like other ways that they've, I don't know what to call that, like nibbled at gun owners' rights, like taking things that nobody cares about and push them, like the Black Talon ammo one time, like little things that they would, like Black Talon was a long time ago, and we couldn't learn nothing from it because back then everything was 8 months later in a magazine we learned about it. So things that were happening in real time, like nobody was really aware that we could know about things in real time for anything. Like the guns wasn't like we were behind. Nothing was real time back then. So I don't really think that far back, but just to keep in mind, like we've been around since the days when all we could do is hear about shit. So that's one of the reasons I'm so enthusiastic about the internet, is that, now we can see things in such real time that it's very difficult to pull the wool over our eyes. And over time, we've had more than one experience. The assault weapons ban, for one. Like, we all came out of the assault weapons ban just as the internet was getting fast. The internet existed for a while, but people were starting to use it. AOL was kind of over already. Not Facebook. MySpace was just starting up around that time at the end of the assault weapons ban. So people were just getting to use the internet like, I'm going to go online, not like I'm going to go to AOL, which wasn't really online technically, like accurately. Like it was kind of like going to one website only. So once people were like figuring out what they could do online, we saw the assault weapons ban happen, and instead of all of us going right on, we just want to fight, let's continue to fight, like I believe a Marine would. Like, I know some people that are fighters, when they get in a brawl and they've got their black eye and the other person has their black eye, they then give the other person a couple more black eyes and maybe a jaw or broken knee or something, so that they never fight again. And it may or may not be your taste in fighting, but it ends fights, and people don't fuck with you again, right? And I thought the assault weapons ban was like such a great opportunity for the gun community to go, you know what? We just had no resistance at all to the expiration of this. And if they thought they had anything to stand on, they would have tried to fight it. Oh, it shouldn't expire, right? We also had the end of the stupid ass Undetectable Firearms Act, which ended every 10. You know, we used to have expiration dates on things. There used to be sunsets, and they quit doing that because they figure out that comes back and bites them because their bullshit. Once people have light of day on their bullshit, we don't vote for their bullshit anymore. So anyway, we had a couple of things end back then, and then we didn't see shit. And I don't think that was strategy. I think it just worked out in their favor that they went after other things as the internet was growing, and they had some successes. We're dealing with the successes they've had on the internet, doing other campaigns, let's say. So as gun owners, we sat around just what's it called, like sitting around. I don't want to say being lazy because we did things, but we weren't fortifying our defenses. We thought that we were done needing to defend ourselves. We certainly didn't take the fight over to them and say, give us back the NFA or anything cool like that, which I think would have been an awesome effort at the beginning of the internet. We could have done it too. But, and that would be a great debate to have if we could have actually got rid of the NFA when the internet first started. I believe we could have if AR15.com wouldn't have been like it was, if people would have had more effort and time to make a good AR15, make a forum that was hosted by, at the time, the only people that could have done it would have been SAF or NRA, or maybe NSSF, but they weren't political yet. But SAF had the wherewithal and the ambition. NRA had the money. They hated each other, so they would have never done it. But none of them had the foresight to do this. And this is 2020 hindsight, so it's not like I knew it was going to happen. But I can say, what the fuck, I changed all of our stuff, all of our strategies towards gun awareness because I could see that was the power of the internet. But anyway, it would have been neat if we would have had a massive forum back then. I think we could have got rid of NFA. But I guess this is a long ass way of me asking the question. The lead up to, since we've been around for a lot of not just gun stuff, but watching gun stuff evolve online. And I would say since at least 2010, everybody who came around in 2015, that's Tony, that's Maj, that's KD, that's what do you call
Diana?
Them? Yeah, I was going to say the women for gun rights.
For gun rights, yep.
Rebecca Schmoy probably started around then. Like most of the people that we think of as like, you know, the fighters now all came around in like 15. So I'm guessing around 10, you all came online. You are all like, what the fuck? And by 15, you were like, I'm doing something about it. And that's just from listening to interviews or knowing y'all. So I guess I'm saying, since with that kind of perspective on it, did we learn anything this time? Did the gun owners who exist today appreciate what just happened in the last couple of years? And this, you know, we've had the New York State Rifle and Pistol. I'm still not done answering the question. We still have the, you know, we have the national, what's it called? The New York State Rifle and Pistol Association division. We had Brewer. Everybody forgets about the 2 EZEL cases and McDonald. We just had the anniversary of McDonald here this month. Do you think that people are wiser and we're appreciative, or are we just more take it for granted and be oblivious to this shit? Because I think those are the two sides, right? Like you were saying, the ambivalence, and then the other side is completely so overworked, you know, over focused on this that you don't have fun shooting guns anymore.
Okay. My personal belief is the people that were around in the day, they were around prior to 2020 in advocacy, may appreciate it, or a large number of those people appreciate it because they're aware of what it was like prior to the Bruin decision. They were aware of that. But the hordes of people that have come in since 2020, millions of people aren't aware of what was before, for the most part, politically, because that wasn't their thing. And then a majority of gun owners that you see in the forums and the comment section don't participate anyway. And they just sit there and go, well, we should be doing this and we should be doing that, while they themselves do nothing. So they don't appreciate the fight that was done or the work that it took. I think a lot of those people don't. And we got to try to get them involved. So I'm not going F those people. I'm just going, they don't know what the hell they're talking about for the most. What has the NRA ever done? That's what we get a lot here in New Jersey. What has the NRA ever done for us? And I'm like, okay, I get that you don't feel the NRA does enough, but you can't act as if they're not there in Trenton doing work all the time, dealing with these people all the time, developing relationships all the time. And the smaller organizations, GOA, FPC, dude, they're fighting all the time. And the younger people, i.e., new people to this, they see it more because they're online and they see what they're doing. Because, sorry, but the NRA's media presence online kind of sucks. You know what I mean? Like when you go to the NRA IG page,
it's like the definition.
It's like,
like I don't know who the hell they're going towards. The guy who has more than like everything is red and MAGA. Like that's the only person they're talking to. Is the guy that wears a MAGA hat everywhere and a MAGA T-shirt, whatever Trump T-shirt and like a Republican jacket, and then wears a gun. But,
and
after he all that Republican stuff on.
So Cam Edwards, formerly of NRA News when it existed, never worked for the NRA but worked for the media company. Just interviewed the new executive vice president of NRA. Did you see that interview?
No, I never watch Cam unless somebody says to look at him. He's on Sundays, I think.
Okay.
Just at a time I'm never.
Oh no, it's every day. He does it one every day. So this was the interview with the new executive vice president. So I want to hear what he has to say because I have friends that are actually on the board, friends and associates that are on the NRA board and trying to make a difference. So what does the new guy have to say? The Hunter Biden ruling came down while they were being interviewed. So I took the opportunity to ask him what he thinks. And he goes, well, if we only, it would be a whole lot better in this country if the government just enforced the rules that are already in place. And he left it at that. And Cam was like, what do you mean? He was like, well, he was using drugs. And if they just enforced that on the 4473 with everyone, it would be better. And Cam Edwards was like, well, my wife has cancer. And one of the things that helps her or allows her to eat when she's feeling nauseous because of the medications is the fact that she can smoke weed and it will actually give her an appetite so she can take in nutrition. Oh, well, weed is different than crack cocaine, but if we only enforce the rules that are already in place, we'd be a much safer country in a much safer space. And I'm looking at him going, and this is why the NRA is losing membership at an alarming rate, because they don't understand the rules that are always already in place. It leaves places like New Jersey, Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts with the laws we have on the books right now, because they're good with that.
This is the guy who just got, I don't want to say elected, but like nominated to be the president in charge of, or like what Green used to be.
Yep, executive vice president. He's now, for all intents and purposes, the head of the NRA, even though they have a president. The executive vice president is one with the power. And he's a longtime employee of NRA. He was with NRA publications. And I'm like, I can't recommend that at all, because I'm fighting in this state to change the laws on the books. And he wants to maintain the laws on the books. So we're at a, impasse of goals. And why would I support that in any way?
Right on. But I would say that's one interview. Give him a minute to figure out that he, get feedback on that interview and then get, what do they call, do introspect or whatever on the feedback that they get, and then decide and tract, because they're probably, again, they've been, marketing towards what they think is somebody that goes to, I don't know what the hell they think, some kind of, whatever the Democrats think of a gun owner, right? Like somebody that goes to NASCAR, barbecues on the weekend, and I don't know, whatever the hell they think gun owners are, reckless somehow, and Yahoo, and can't think of anything more than a sound bite or something. And, so if they think that that's all they're talking to, then they may still be thinking they have to talk that way. So part of it is they've got to well, we got to give them a second to figure out their voice, and they've got to figure out their fucking voice pretty quick. But they have, like you said, we know people on the board that are focused on that change, and they're going to do everything they can now that they've got ears, or what's the word? They have the ear of those folks. So anyway, they should get, if they continue a narrative like that over any amount of time, I'm with you. But I got to give him a second first.
Well, my whole thing is this is his chance. He's doing a lot of media. He said his goal is to get out there and do more media. And this is where you are in a friendly environment. I mean, you can't get more friendlier than Cam Edwards as the head of the NRA. And I'm like, bro, that was an unforced foul right there, in my opinion. Like, there was no reason for you to even say that like that. And then reiterate it not once, but I think 3 times in the interview.
Yeah, usually if somebody, or I guess is paying attention, they'll pick up on the fact that he's like, "Are you sure you wanted to say that?" Like, maybe it's coming out the wrong way. It sounds like you're saying this. Oh, you are saying it. All right, well, I guess you're saying it then.
Yeah, that's the thing. Cam was like, yeah. So my wife, oh yeah, that's different, but it's the same. And I'm like, bro, there are people in what is it? I'm like, homie, weed is legal in many states, and you're just cool with the ATF being able to see. That was my issue with my own wife's illness, and the fact that the doctor we were going to was issuing way too many opioids to her, but he was doing it to everyone, including people that were doctor shopping. And when he got busted, they seized his records. My wife had no ability to get any painkillers for what she was going and still is going through, obviously.
Is doctor shopping where they go around looking for doctors, and then, or I mean, they go to a doctor and say, I need a prescription, then go to the next doctor and I need a prescription, then next doctor, and we just collect a bunch of pills.
And that is what they were doing. Well, we weren't doing that. We found a doctor that was taking care of my wife's issue. And then all of a sudden, my wife had to go from painkillers to none, which made it hard for her to even get out of bed. You know what I mean? And it was like, well, what are we supposed to do now? So my wife considered the weed. And my whole issue was doing what I do in the state of New Jersey with a petty ass governor like we have, and people pretending not to be cops and come into my events. I'm like, I know at times I'm being watched. I don't know at what times I'm being watched. And if my wife is using illicit drugs as a painkiller because, oh, yeah, the state attorney general has all of our health records because that's who takes them when the doctor gets arrested. I'm like, my wife can't get painkillers. Where are we supposed to legally get painkillers if you have all our medical records and no new doctor is willing to pick us up? So I know I'm not in that unique of a position, but it is a position that people don't think of because they don't, you know what I mean? They don't see it. So as a firearms owner, as a professional firearms trainer, and as a Second Amendment advocate in an anti-gun state, that's a lot going on. And I'm looking at risking my freedom, getting rid of my firearms so my wife can do something that, you know, violates the rules that are already in place. So she's not in pain, unbearable pain 24/7 because our doctor did something illegal. So I guess what I'm saying is I see this as something personal. It's not just a theory with me. It's something we had to live through. So when I see someone who said they're there to make a change, still doing the same old thing,
a super pop.
I lose a little patience with it. So, but I agree with you. We need to give the NRA a chance to swim or sink.
Yeah,
and it's all on them.
But it's it's been a few years coming, so it's going to probably take a minute to start moving the ship. But well, I'm going to go back to the question that's on the screen here, since we've been chatting for a bit, and we've got quite a few people jumping in. And I kind of started it off with a tangent there. So a question came into the site. so we can try to dissect this one, because this is the question verbatim. My current slide spring is 18 pounds. My wife is having trouble pulling the slide. If I purchase a 15-pound slide, will that help? So I have no idea what this gun is. I'm assuming it's a Glock, but I've never heard of the spring weight being mentioned. So if that's the recoil spring, the actual spring barrel, I wouldn't change that. I've never even heard of using different size weights of springs there. I would say the first thing I do is either recommend a revolver or talk about using the triceps instead of any other muscles. So what I would say at the gun shop, when some lady or some little guy was having trouble sliding the slide on a super big gun or something, or not always a big gun. A lot of times little tiny guns have super strong sides so that they can work. Super hard to work, and there's very little to hold on to. So I would usually say, take your left hand and hold it over your heart, like if you're saying the pledge or something. And now put the slide in that hand and take your right hand, like if you were going to do a push-up. This is for a right-handed person. You can do it the other way if you're left-handed. Take your right hand like you're going to do a push-up and put it on your gun like if you're going to hold it. And now don't move your left hand at all, but push with your right hand. You're pushing with your tricep against your other tricep right in front of your chest. So you have ultimate control over the pistol. It's right there. And it'll work defensively because, if you had to do that really quick, it's in a good place to do it. And you're essentially using your whole hands and not your fingers and stuff. You're using your whole hands. So you got the most body strength and articulature there. And then you've got your triceps involved. And everybody and I don't know if that's working as an audio, if I'm describing that well or not. But as soon as a lady would try that, boom, she could rack any gun in the shop. And every once in a while they'd go, give me that gun, and rack it. Give me that one now, rack it. 1911 is pretty easy to rack, and if somebody racks one of them, it's a big gun, easy to rack. Then they pick up some little 380, and they're like, how come I can't rack this? It's like, well, it's a hell of a lot bigger spring on that gun. It's a tiny little gun. It needs a giant spring or a strong spring. So that's my first reaction, but I haven't. That's old. It's probably 10-year-old advice at this point. So Tony's got a lot more experience. I'll let him go with the better answer here.
All right. One, that advice is still good 10 years later because we use it in our events to tell women, because you got to rack the guns that are there, not guns we wish we had. So that's one. I would test to see if my firearm, because we don't know what gun we're talking about here, works with that recoil spring and the ammunition I choose to run with. Because if it still works and everything is cool, fine. I don't know if that'll help out. The 3-pound difference will help out your wife or not. No clue. But more important is, does it reduce the reliability of your firearm? That's way more important. The other thing is, there are other ways you can do this. I don't know what caliber this firearm is, but there's a 380 EZ from Smith & Wesson. And I think they also have a 9 EZ from Smith & Wesson. Those are two guns designed for people that have a problem racking the slide because it has a lot lighter spring, but it's designed that way. Has a really good trigger. I mean, if you're going to go and do it, I would suggest you see if you can afford the Performance Center version because they have better sights and better triggers. And that's what's something I check out. And the firearm is a little bit bigger. So it's not so small that it's difficult for you to even get a grip on. It has enough size on it that even I shoot it with no problem. Because I have big hands right now, I'm holding my frame of my Glock 19 and my pinky is barely holding on to the very bottom. And if it wasn't for Magpul magazines, my grip would really be compromised on this thing. So that's one firearm I would look at. And another one, I think, who said this? Somebody was talking about the tip-up barrel design on like the Beretta Cheetah 80 series. That's something you can do. And also, a Gerson sells their copy of that. I think it's called like the M something 14. I think that's what Gerson calls it. But you can go to their website and check it out. And they have a 380 with a tip-up barrel, so you won't ever have to actually rack the slide. All you do is flip the barrel up, drop the round in, close the barrel back, and then stick the mag in the bottom, and boom, there you go. You're ready to run the gun. So there are options to changing your spring. and it gives you an opportunity to buy a new gun. So that's the way I'd look at it.
Couldn't find it. Yeah, Mike White makes a great point there. That's the reason those tip-up barrels exist, is so that people that can't deal with the strength or dexterity of a slide can still bring into action a semi-auto.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks. So hopefully, and then CNT brought up an interesting point. I consider this a massive weakness of these optics, but does the gun have does the gun have an RMR on it? Because like my mom, who couldn't run a slide without an RMR, she can with an RMR. So essentially thinking of it like a big lever. But my reason I don't like those things is because that's the potential. All you got to do is throw a stick at you, and now your gun's out of battery. Nothing you can do about it because you put a big lever on your gun. But it makes people aim easier, and they don't have to squint their eyes, and they think they're really good at shooting because they can shoot with a cheater dot. So they love it. But yeah, you're essentially making your gun inoperable, or putting a big lever on your gun that makes it inoperable. But at the same time, for people that aren't thinking about being in a fight, then yeah, you can use that thing as a lever. They're rugged enough, right? Like unless it's about to unscrew, you need to use or something. It shouldn't bother it. That's the whole point of them, is they're locked in with their attachment plate, right? And they're all cut nice so that they don't have any slop or tolerance. And then you screw them in, so they're a part of your slide essentially. There are a couple of models where that wouldn't work because it's attached to your rail or something, but I think that's like 2 guns I've ever heard of, so I don't think it's even worth mentioning.
Yeah. That's not even a thing pretty much with most people. And it's funny because as we're talking about this, I'm using my firearm. Again, I just cleaned it because it had a little surface rust on it. And I have something called a Triclops sight on my gun. And what it is, it stands up off. You can check it out at triclopsights.com. Small company. They sent me this. We were talking about it on our podcast. And I dig it. I think it's a really nice, it sets up, they call it pretty much an analog red dot. And it stands up off of the sight. It stands up off the pistol where the rear sight goes. And it's a square. Imagine it being a small Lego block. And it has 3 fiber optic pieces in it, 3 fiber optic rods in it. And the fiber optic rod in the front sight, pretty much like a suppressor height sight. And what you do is center the front, what the word is, fiber optic, in between the 3 red fiber optics in the back. And you shoot wherever the green fiber optic is. It's awesome. Maybe you can put it up on screen. Let me take a photo of it. And I'll post it to my stories and you can put it up. I think that'll be the quickest way to handle it. So that's what I've used, and you can rack right off of this. When you're racking off your optic, you can knock your optic out of alignment. You can also break your optic.
But I mean, I'll give them credit. I don't hear many people talking about them breaking. I mean, I guess that's not true. The cheap ones can break, but they're going to break from use.
Well, what it
break from?
Yeah, in my opinion, it's the screws that'll break, not, you know what I mean? Like the connection between them. But I don't think that's a huge problem. I think some things are just made up.
Yeah.
Internet people.
And it's like Murphy's Law. I like to assume that the worst case scenario is going to happen when you most need it. But that's just being old, and every once in a while when that happens, it makes you gun shy, and you think, I want to get stuff that's bulletproof for certain things.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter how risk it on certain things, but on certain things, I want to make sure, on other things, I want to make sure. I don't care if it's clunky and old. If it works, it works. Speaking of clunky and old, we got a question.
Oh, hey.
Do you think 38 Special Snub Nose is a good carry gun? So, yeah, I do. So a lot of people don't. And I don't know if that's out of awareness or out of testing or some sort of like thorough investigation, or if it's just what they like. But I think that there's a reason it's one of the first carry guns, and it's still around. Like that's testament to how effective it is. Over all of time, that size projectile coming out of that size mechanism, that size machine, works for mammals of our size, right? So human can put that in their pocket, and it's enough to deal with a human. It's not enough to deal with a bear or something else, but it's, and it's more than you need for a mouse, but it is the right size for a human. And the gun itself is the right size. So it's not a giant thing that you're going to leave at home, and it's not a tiny thing that you're going to forget. I think it's a good size. As a person who carries one around in your pocket, like, when it's not there. So just like a holster. I mean, it's similar to a holster. It's a big enough gun that if you're not wearing it, you're like, what happened? Why am I? Why do I feel weird? Oh, I'm missing whatever ounce hunk of metal on my side. So I think that it's big enough for that. Unlike maybe an NAA or something, which is kind of tiny, and you could leave it home and not even think about it and get out of the habit of carrying it. So anyway, for all those reasons. And then, of course, I always go back to the old standby. You don't know you're in a gunfight until you're on the ground with little Tweety birds and you come out of your being passed out or out of your being knocked in the back of the head with a 2x4. You come back to being able to know what's in reality. You're getting your pockets rifled through and or getting the crap kicked out of you, depending on your situation. Worse, maybe. And in that case, I want a revolver. I don't care anything about fancy red dots and all the other shit that works on a range. I want a revolver I can use coming out of my pocket with enough rounds to stop whatever that's happening right there. Because that's when you need a gun. But I don't want to get all gory. I always get to that point with the revolver. But anyway, that was setting me up for sure. What do you think?
What's that?
Well, I'm just saying that's like the perfect question for me because I'm the revolver fan.
Mm-hmm.
But I think of it as a practical thing. I have no super love for it. I wish I could love a little tiny. I was just at a gun shop. I finally went to a gun shop. I don't remember last time I went to a gun shop. I was meeting a friend of mine. And we're like, hey, let's meet at the gun shop around the corner. Since we were going to go to this one place, I'm like, hey, there's a gun shop around the corner. Let's go there. I haven't been to one forever. Anyway, saw a bunch of these little tiny 9mm that are the size of the old 380s back in the day. And I could see why people love that. I mean, I get it. Like, I totally get it, especially if you're new to carrying and you're not giant, you're not a big dude. I can carry a giant gun. I don't care. I'm a big dude, right? But I can understand if you're not, that you don't want to carry a big gun around. So I totally get these little 9s, but I just still big advocate, big fan of revolvers. Now, personally, I think a 357, but I'll shut up now. Go ahead.
Okay, so, oh, God, these people. All right. A revolver for concealed carry is not the easy button that people act like it is. It is a good self-defense firearm. I think with the right loading, it's an effective self-defense firearm. But you're not getting a shortcut. You're going to have to practice with the double action trigger pull. You're going to have to find the holster that works for you. You have to understand that you're going to be limited to 5 or 6 rounds for most of them. You got to work accordingly. Like, people want an easy answer that I want something that I don't have to practice with and is going to be effective at fill in the blank, whatever they think their gunfight is going to be. And it's like, no, they're harder. That double action trigger pull is harder to get used to. But once you master it, you're going to be able to shoot everything, because it is a long trigger pull that forces you to maintain your sight alignment, sight picture, and have trigger control. And because of the lightweight, you're going to have to learn to control the recoil and your flinch response because, oh my goodness, this gun kicks a lot because it weighs 17 ounces and is shooting full house 38 specials or 38 plus Ps, 158 grain or 125 grain. Like, you're going to have to put in work. So is it good? Yes. Is it going to be easy? No. Is it easier to toss it in a pants pocket? Is it safer feeling to have it carry appendix carry because of the long double action pull, or in any way because of the long double action pull? Yes. Yes. And it's been around since the mid 1800s. Small revolvers. They work.
I think that's a great point. And I don't talk about the negative sides, but you're right. You don't just get an easy button. And it's not like it's the perfect answer. I just think it's the perfect answer for an austere situation where you're getting clobbered and there's hands on your gun. But that it doesn't mean that it's actually way more. That's why they created pistols and why they are so, what's the word? Like, there's so many of them. is because it's so difficult to shoot a revolver, especially little tiny revolvers. It gets harder and harder all the time. Everything you add to it, make it smaller, make it lighter weight, put bigger calibers in it. But I'll also say we're not trying to shoot bullseyes across the room. That's definitely a goal for a lot of people when they shoot. You can do that all day. I like doing that often. I do that with a 44 Magnum. But my little ones, I'm happy if I can hit, the target, the circle part of the target, or the silhouette's part of the silhouette, on halfway across the room, because it's not designed.
And it also behooves you with any firearm to get out and know your limitations, because way too many people assume they can shoot way too well. And it's like, man, look, with that little ass snubby, you got to get out there and see where you can hit with that snubby at. 3 yards. Cool. Can you put them where they need to be at 3 yards? Period. Let's get that down first. Make sure we're hitting the target. And then it's time to get that stopwatch or that shot timer download on your phone for free, or actually buy a dedicated shot timer, and put some pressure on yourself and see if you can get it under a timed response. You know what I mean? Like, how fast can we get these suckers on target? Cool. Great. And that's something you should do with any carry gun, by the way. And one cool thing that's happening in the competition shootings right now is what they call bug matches or backup gun matches. And these, I think, are one of the best things that ever hit, which is you're limited to 6 rounds, whether it's semi-automatic or revolver. And you run these matches carrying your carry gun, your snubby, your backup gun. And it's not going to become usually these things turn into who can afford the best gear. And this is kind of anti that. And it allows you to run your snub nose or your single stack small pistol in realistic distances, but realistic distances dictated by a match director. So you can't come and shoot your favorite thing. And you have to shoot from cover. You have to shoot weekend. You have to shoot strong hand. You have to shoot around barricades. I think that's something that we could all use as practice, and also ego check, and also a barometer to see how you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I know they didn't ask all that, but I wanted to put it out there.
No, that's a great point, because knowing what you can do is great, but knowing what you can do consistently is a different level. Like, what you're able to do, and then what you consistently do or what you fall back to is good, like you said, barometer.
Because I know I can consistently hit a 14-inch target at 200 yards. But can I do so under pressure?
Well,
we're messing around at the range.
So I assume I will shoot.
Mm-hmm. Sadly, I missed our event yesterday. I thought it was going to be this Friday. I messed up. They had the normal police shoot I go to once a month. I thought it was third Friday of the month, not second Friday of the month. So I missed last night. Plus, they had the summer cookout there, which is awesome. And that's why one of the reasons you want to go to your local range to these events. 1, hanging out with other gun people. 2, sometimes they have awesome events like this where they bring food and welcome everyone. We have 2 of those a year, one for Christmas and one to welcome in the summer. And I freaking missed it.
What kind of stuff do people bring to the event like that in New Jersey? Is there New Jersey food, or is it just a bunch of random stuff? Oh, yeah. I mean, it's funny because people in this area don't see it as Jersey food, but being from the South, I see it as Jersey food. Like the antipasta salad with all the meats and stuff. It's type of stuff.
Yep, a lot of cold cuts that. I mean, I grew up with cold cuts as ham and turkey. Oh, no. We got prosciutto, salami, capicola. Like, they have those different kinds of meats that dudes bring, olives, things like that. So they have what I consider Jersey food. But it's funny because these people just consider it food. Like if we were down south and we had something and we had barbecue. I don't see it as a uniquely Southern thing, but plus food has changed over the last 30 years because of Food Network and those kind of cable TV shows.
For sure. Yeah.
That we
for sure.
kind of, we're losing our regionality.
People move around, and it's like you used to move to a place and it's like, oh, I moved to an Italian place, so you learn to cook Italian and you learn to go to Italian, you like kind of absorbed that stuff, and nowadays you bring what you got with you. And I don't know, it's a different topic, but they used to say they're a melting pot. Who keeps saying it's a salad? Somebody keeps using the term salad, and I like that one, where everything gets chopped up, still has its identity. It's a different thing when it's all together, but lettuce is still lettuce and cheese is still cheese. Instead of turning into a stew, it's a third thing. We got a bunch of questions coming in, and I figured let's hit some of them. So New York Outcast said earlier, I got a cigar question. What's the name of the place that Tony's friend gets a personal blend from? Trying to pass the information to somebody who loves cigars.
All right. So a friend of mine gets personal blends, Kevin Dixie out, and was two actually. And I don't know the name of the place. I apologize. Kevin was getting his made in St. Louis, and Argo J was getting his made out in Madison, Wisconsin. And that was just their local places. You can probably talk to your local cigar shop, and they can find somebody that'll do blends for you. New York Outcast. Yeah, hold on. Okay, there's a group in New York of cigar smokers called the Ash Holes, ASH Holes. And that's a group of guys who smoke cigars and do volunteer work for Cigars for Warriors and things like that. And they're in New York because I met them at the New Jersey Cigar Festival and actually hung out at the table with those guys all day. Awesome individuals. You may be able to speak to them if you can Google it, look it up, because they do have a website. Ash Holes, New York Ash Holes. Google that, and if you can find them, they might be able to help you out.
Right on. Have you thought about making them for yourself or for Diversity Shoot or something?
I'm not educated enough in the different kinds of tobaccos and leaves. Yeah, I wouldn't know what to even ask for. I know what I like. I know what I like as a very junior cigar smoker. I've only been smoking cigars since 2020. And I'm still in that process of, I've never tried this. Let me try this. I don't like that. So the only definite opinions I have of cigars is I haven't met anything from Rocky Patel I actually like. Like, that is what I've learned. Like, that one manufacturer, I don't like any of his Rocky Patel cigars. And I've tried many of them. I spent a significant amount of money trying out his product line because in the cigar world, everyone tells me how great Rocky Patels are. Oh, you didn't get the right one. Oh, you need to try his Rocky Patel 25th anniversary, 15th anniversary, 10th anniversary. Like, I've been celebrating anniversaries with dudes since 99. I'm done with it. You know what I mean? It's like, no, I've tried like every anniversary year and I don't like them. So, and I love cigar dudes because they ain't that dedicated. It's just, that's one of the ones Rocky Patel is one people often talk about. And Gurkhas are another one. And I started off with Gurkhas because they were a gift from Grey Ghost Precision. And I've since moved away from that. So you develop opinions, but I have no ulterior motives, and I don't, you know what I mean? I don't go for the flashy whatever because I don't know enough. It's pretty much like when we got into guns. It's a new hobby to me, so I don't know anything and I'm learning.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So when there's a massive horizon of directions you can go. We got Crab Turtle saying happy episode 1776. So it's pretty neat. Yeah, we've been doing this one for a while. So
that's awesome.
Episode 1776. We don't really think about 1776. We were both alive back then, and it was the biggest deal in the world at the time. From what I remember, I was a little kid. Assuming you were a little kid, do you remember anything about it, or do you remember? I can remember technically it, I guess, like flashbacks when you're a little kid, but I get told about it, so I think I know more about it than I can remember, if that makes sense. Like, a lot of stories.
That's
back
funny.
then. It was a big deal, like parades and lots
What, in
of stuff.
1776?
Oh, no, sorry, it's 1976. The end of what do you call that?
Okay, cool.
Sorry, what did I say? I meant
Bicentennial.
1976. Yeah, the bicentennial.
I'm like, how old do you think I am? I was like, in 1776, my memories would have been definitely different than yours. What do you mean, we free?
That definitely. Exactly.
But I still remember the fact that they had bicentennial quarters.
Uh-huh.
And I thought that was really cool because it was, I mean, as a kid, because I was I was 6. Actually, I was 5. No one's going to give you a bicentennial dollar, but nobody's going to blink to give a kid a quarter. And it had the drummer on it, and it had the Spirit of 76 flag in the corner. And I thought that was really cool because remember, I'm 5. So
yeah.
It's things that the kid remembers. And there were lots of parades, and I thought that was cool. And there was in my, again, childlike opinion, there wasn't a lot of politics involved. Like today, somehow somebody would just make it stupid. And it wasn't. It was a celebration of this country as a whole. And I thought that was cool as a kid. And I think I picked up some of my patriotic fervor from that because I was such a young kid and it was seen such a big deal for a long time. It wasn't like the week before people were talking about it. It was being talked about
that whole
significant.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome, dude, because I think the same thing. Like, we're probably patriotic to some extent because of the times. That was just a thing you were back in the day, or you weren't, I guess. But in other words, nobody challenged it. It wasn't like, oh, you're patriotic. Why are you patriotic? Nobody ever said shit like that. But maybe it was because we lived through 1776 at being little kids where, I mean, we didn't deal with any hassle. We didn't deal with any of the stress. All we dealt with is like, oh, I want this cake or that taco or that hamburger or whatever the hell we were eating. Like we were little kids enjoying the whole damn thing. The parades were for us and shit. And yeah, it's interesting. I never thought about it that way. Did you go anywhere to see like airplanes or boats or something cool, like some kind of, what do they call them?
I'm assuming, because it was 4th of July was the huge one.
Yeah.
I'm assuming we went to the state park, which we went to every year. And maybe we went to parades because look, it's been almost 50 years. So, yeah, I'm thinking that's what it was. It was parades. It was a big deal because everybody was dressed in red, white, and blue. And I think I remember like somebody dressed as Uncle Sam on stilts. Again, this is stuff you remember from a child. That's what I kind of remember. Like, I love people that have whole memories about everything. I'm like, no, I just got pieces. And watching it on TV was really cool.
From the last time I thought about it 10 years ago or something, like I'm fragments.
Exactly. So yeah, given time and enough talking and maybe, talking to my mom, my brother, I could put together more, but off the top of my head, just the impressions I have, it was really cool as a kid because it was America and a celebration of America. And you have to think about when it was happening. It was happening in 1976 when gas prices were high. I don't know if we were going through the OPEC crisis or not. Vietnam had just ended. Not only had Vietnam ended, we still had issue in Cambodia. We had one of our ships taken off the coast of Vietnam. The USS, starts with M. Anyway, Marine Corps came and had to get the ship back, and we lost some Marines. That whole thing had happened, but this was a celebration of America itself, and I thought it was cool as a child. And I think because of that, I still think America's awesome as an adult, and those are one of the foundational blocks of it, was living through the bicentennial. I mean, we created money for that. We created coins for that.
Mm-hmm. Now, I wonder if that was to put a Band-Aid on something or really just to put a candle in a cake that everybody was eating. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I never asked anybody.
I think it probably was all the above because the president stepping down. Yeah, we had a president stepping down. We had a new president stepping up. I mean, because that was about the time Jimmy Carter was elected. Like, I remember the good parts. I don't remember. And again, this is as a child, and I'm from the country. I mean, I'm from Southern Virginia, so there wasn't going to be a lot of, you know, Yankee counter protesters or left wing anything.
Yeah, back then, well, I guess I shouldn't say that. I was going to say people would just stay home. There were protests for things, but not for 1776 that I'm aware of.
Yeah, yeah,
So
the memorabilia.
right, and
The
that was
useless.
the thing. Like, well, you would get cups, right? You would get like stupid
Yep.
glasses or something from the bank, and people would. That was a thing, and it was like, I don't know, a bonding thing with other
The pens.
people.
Remember the little pens that you get and put on your shirt, like
Yeah.
1776 or stuff. All that stuff, which we see as corny, made in China, yada yada, blab. But for a kid, it was cool, or at least to me as a kid, it was cool.
Well, I think it was the whole country because I remember that stuff being kept. You know, maybe they didn't keep everything, but there was like, hey, remember 1776? So like people had that. Oh, it's probably something like keepsake. Is that the right word? Like a mentality of wasn't all digital and photographs were worth something. You gave a shit about photograph cost you something and you couldn't get another one. And I mean, technically, yes, you could get another copy made of a picture, but holy shit, there was no copy machines. Like that would have taken a tremendous effort and cost to make a duplicate of a picture back in the day. So pictures had a different meaning, and we don't give a shit about. We take pictures for granted now. Like holy moly, I have so many pictures I can't even imagine. I bet you my grandparents had 100 pictures in their whole life. You know what I mean? Like in their possession, like in boxes and shit. I don't know what the number is, but you know what I mean? Like compared to us, it's not. We don't even think about it. So I think there was just they cherish things a little bit differently. So you were going to keep something from 1776 because you didn't have a fucking folder of pictures or videos and shit. And then what is it like camaraderie? You know, it's like the community. I guess people knew like they remembered it was a good time because there were times where people were like upset about gas prices and bitching and moaning, throwing rocks, or the war, throwing rocks, or what the fuck? What they call like what the hell can I think of the word for the 60s? Essentially the
anti-war movement,
like the people that resisted integration, like they would fucking riot and kill people and shit. You know, we talked about that kind of shit. Obviously, people are aware of that now, but it wasn't brought up because what are you going to do? Bring it up every 5 minutes? Or trying to move on from some of this shit from the olden days, and people were alive that remembered that they weren't going to forget the shit. They knew what happened. So the fact that everybody got together and were happy in 1776, it was like in spite of, like in addition to all that other shit, we were also able to come together and give a shit about this system or this country, what it represents. Everybody had either remembered World War I or been part of World War fucking II at the time, which was a totally different long war that brought the entire world together, and we were essentially the heroes of it. So just a whole different vibe, right? Then I don't know what could happen. Could 1776 be a thing? Like, I don't know when the next thing is. I don't know why it was even, why would it was 200 years after 1776. So
it's 200 years. Bicentennial.
Will there be a tricentennial, I guess, in 2076? And could that ever happen again? Or would it bring the
I
same
hope so.
to the country, whatever that is? That's, could it bring that same emotion to the country? Can I use that word?
I hope so. I look at it this way, man. America's awesome. And if you don't believe America's awesome, that's cool. You can be wrong. We celebrate it because it's a celebration of people being different. We don't have to agree on everything, but we go, hey, it's pretty freaking cool that I can express my opinion and not have to worry about a death squad coming to my house later on because I had the wrong opinion. I think we can understand that, or at least we should be able to understand how awesome that is to live in a country like this. There are no, you can almost get away with saying that, well, actually on mine, you can get away with saying some of the dumbest things that ever be uttered by human beings and not have to worry about much. And I'm like, we can't act as if that's not a big deal on the world stage. or in human history. Because, man, at one time, every country had rulers that they believed were descendants from God. Like, we make jokes about the president pooping his pants now. So it's totally different. Oh, and by the way, that wasn't long ago. Japan was one of those places in 1946.
I just was watching the thing about the terracotta warriors. So you remember the terracotta warriors in China? So the Qin dynasty is the guy named Qin, I guess, or the Qin dynasty is the first dynasty that brought all those countries together under China. That's why it's called China, because of Qin dynasty. I never knew that. So it was a long time ago, 2,000 years ago. This guy was so strong that he brought together all the countries of China into one thing and started calling it China. And everybody was like, okay, that sounds like a good idea, right? He was that big a dude. He created a thing. I forget how many acres, like 90-acre, what do you call it? Like temple to himself. Like when he died. Is that what it's called when he dies? Right. And that's where these terracotta warriors go. So he has 3,000 terracotta warriors and like 29 acres or something of this 40,000 acre giant temple he's building. And it's his whole adult life. He basically imprisons everybody who's bad or who's being a jerk, I guess I'm assuming, and makes them into workers at this place. So tons of people are building this thing, and each one of those warriors is completely different. Anyway, long story short, huge, massive effort. He dies, and like not even a generation later, gone completely. Like people don't even hardly remember him. There's one book from back then, like, you know, except for the fact that they found this, like they had no idea that it even happened. And that was such a huge, I mean, can you imagine?
Wow.
All-encompassing thing. He created China, and aside from that, like very little was known about him until they started digging this up and kind of found it and started digging it up and then realized, oh, wow. Anyway.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
Oh, I just checked. Oh, two things. One, I posted a picture of those sites up in my stories. So if you want to check it out on the split screen or something and let people see what it is, it's there. The other thing, talking about, on Instagram, SimonSaysTrain. And talking about our grandparents having pictures. I have 12,000 pictures on my phone right now, 12,806 photos. And probably
you will be able to see that I viewed your story. How weird is that? It just told me that. Like, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Uh-oh. What happened to it? I was looking at it. Was it short?
It was in stories. It should come back up if you go back in.
View story.
There you go. That's it.
Oh, it's I have to pause it. Okay. Oh,
so
it's got like a box or something. Can I zoom in this?
If you can look at the left, the right-hand picture, you can see the box on the back, on the top of the slide. Those are three separate pictures.
You zoom really. So I'm going to just do a print screen, and then I'll open up Paint, and then paste into Paint the print screen that I just did. And if I can get this to come over here, then we can zoom in on the money part. And I guess I got to save this. This just take a second. And then just open that picture. Then I can zoom in on it whenever it opens up here. All right, well, it took like an hour and a half, but now we have a picture.
And if you listen to the podcast and you're not going to go to my website, my Simon Says Train, you can check out TriClopsSites.com.
So what's the deal? You're supposed to put your dot in the center of those?
Yeah, so those are the three in the back. And if you see the green right there in the front, that's the front sight. It's pretty much a suppressor height front sight with a green fiber optic. And you just center that up between the red fiber optics in the back. Equal height, equal light. Make it even with the two 3 o'clock, and 9 o'clock, and center it up against the one at 12 o'clock. So pretty much you punch out and it almost centers itself. Now, this is built for me because I'm right eye dominant, because there's a slight slant to it if you look at it from the top of the slide down, but I didn't think I'd want to make the that many pictures on one thing, on one page.
So
but I think it was interesting.
What's the top dot for?
The top dot is just for centering in the middle. So you center your front sight underneath the top red dot, and you center your front sight equal distance between the left and the right red dot. Your eyeball centers it anyway, almost automatically, just like you work with a P sight.
Yeah, exactly.
It's human nature.
The what is that called? Yeah, it's our tendency or whatever. It's we just do it.
So the guy Jamie or Sean, I think Sean is his name. He was like, look at it as an analog red dot, and I was like, that's one way to think of it. And the reason I brought it up is because it's made out of 60, 65 aluminum, and you can rack it off of anything because it's secure in your rear sight slot on your Glock. So you don't have to modify your firearm at all. You just you tell them what kind of gun you have, and they get it in. They send it to you, and you mount it. I use the regular Glock tool to install it, or rear sight tool to install it. It's interesting. I had one of the adjunct trainers from James Yeager's place, Tactical Response, at Kevin Dixie's, and we were having a discussion, and I was like, check it out. He was like, dude, this is really different. And then he started busting shotgun clays at about 60 yards with it. So they have them for the Beretta APX, CZ75, whatever the heck, a Desert Eagle Gen 1 41 Magnum. That's pretty damn specific.
Yeah. So they must make it. Well, it uses the rear slide or the rear sight dovetail, so they essentially make it to those patterns or whatever. And then they probably have to worry about something like other real estate on the slide for the specific guns. So anyway, it sounds like somebody must have had one of those, asked for one, so they specially made it up, and now it's in their inventory, right?
True. It works with the daggers, Ruger 5.7, Smith & Wesson M&P, Smith & Wesson Shield, SAR K12. That's awesome. SIGs, P320s, 365s, 220s, 365 RMRs, Springfield Hellcats, Steyr S9A1. Ooh, even the Walther PPX. You know, you can go through and find out. All right, who owns the PPX? Which one of you four people own the PPX, and y'all made it for that too? Because it's not like the Walther PPX was a huge seller. That was their 16-shot hammer-fired entry-level Beretta. I mean, not Beretta, Walther. Sorry. So you go through, what's that?
No, go ahead.
Oh, you go through, you pick out the model of firearm, you let them know which is your dominant eye, and then you pick out the caliber. And you send it in, you let them know, and it's $119. I find it interesting. The guy from Tactical Response was like, this is interesting. I'd like to put some more time in. Who did you get it from, and where is it? I'm like, I look at it this way. Depends on how bad your stigmatism is. This works. I've been running it since last year, but I competed with it once, and I was shooting to the left, and I didn't know whether it was my sights or me, because we went all the way out to, I was shooting at 25 yards on the large target, but on the 50-yard simulated target, I was shooting completely to the left, and I didn't know whether it was me or not. Because again, it's not like I did it at a range under my own time. I did it on the clock during the competition. So It's not like you can check between shots to see where it landed. You have like 120 seconds to shoot from 4 different positions. But I find it interesting. You got to check it out at triclopsites.com. And again, they gave this site to me just to check it out, and maybe eventually to do a review on it. But I've been talking about it because I think it's worthwhile.
Freaking muted over here. So I had a client back in the old days. I'm trying to think of when it was now. He was one of my last clients, so it had to be probably like maybe even 10. But anyway, so back in the day, I used to do websites for people, and I had my shingle out there to do websites for people, and I was a gun guy, so I did quite a few websites for gun-related things, and one of them was essentially a ghost ring. I can't remember. It had probably something to say ghost or something, but it was essentially something that would replace the rear sight and create a ghost ring on a pistol, and it would create, I don't know. No, I guess I didn't. Let me screen share again. I didn't get a good. I edited the picture poorly because your Instagram picture does show the cage down here. It's kind of almost a cage looking effect when you look at it from the side. And I guess, those are fiber optic. That's why. So this guy, he had fiber optic, if I remember. But anyway, the long story short is it had actually, I never saw a mock other than drawings. I never saw one. So I think his was a little bigger, but it was nowhere near as big as a standard red dot that people put on optics nowadays. It was closer to this size, but still back in 2000, let's say 10, that was, oh my goodness, like no one had even thought about putting something on the slide. Like what? Why would you put something giant on the slide? I think what happened was somebody tried to put something on the rear sight once. Was it a light or a laser or something? Somebody put a laser on the rear sight, and it was a big clunky thing that you had to look through or something to shoot. But they thought they were being clever by incorporating it, under the slide or something maybe so it could fit in a holster. I forget what their reasoning was, but it went over like lead. It just didn't. It was SHOT Show 2008 or nine maybe, I think, and it only lasted. It was like almost didn't even last out through whole of SHOT Show. They might have pulled it off the table at some point because nobody wanted anything on their slide. So when this guy came out and had me build the site for it, it was for old people. He was building it for people with sight issues or old people that were losing their sight or losing their crispness or whatever. He wanted it to just be literally a ghost ring. So similar to this without the red parts. So just in a round, but and I think he was making it out of plastic. And I don't know what his. Anyway, he didn't consult me on the design. I just built the website for him. I can remember, and essentially it didn't go very far. He was but that's like a restaurant. That you can have good food, you can be in the wrong location. You can have the great location and have the wrong food, right? Like restaurants can close for lots of reasons. So businesses start up and close on the internet all the time. It wasn't because of his website. His website was pretty fucking awesome, but for whatever reason, it didn't go very far. But now I'm sitting here looking in 2024, and this is not the first time I've seen something essentially like this or similar. So nowadays, it's obviously nobody has any apprehension about putting something on the top of your slide or putting something in the slide or the site rail or whatever that's called, the site trough. What's it called?
Side picture.
No, the rail or whatever the thing is that you pushed it into. I guess I was also going to, and I was just mentioning that, like, it's just interesting that, a decade later, now I've tried to explain this before, that like training is totally different than it was a decade ago, because there was these camps a decade ago and you had to be in the camp. Like, I'm in this camp or I'm in this camp. I believe this or I believe that. And there was a lot of different camps, but you had to believe them. Nowadays, it's like everybody took all that stuff from the different camps. Like if they were a bunch of different cards in a card game, and they just mixed them all. They just shuffled them all. And now it's like, you could just sit there watching somebody's training course and you'll be like, oh, that's a little bit of this guy. There's a little bit of that guy. There's a little bit of that course. There's a little bit of that course. There's a little bit of influence from there. And I think it's beyond anybody being able to recognize that anymore. I was just watching She Fires on last Sunday, and she was talking about the dot drill. You remember when the dot drill came out? The dot torture
Mm-hmm.
drill is what it used to be called, and it was awesome. It
Dot
was,
torture.
right? You could put, what is it, 9, 10 dots on a piece of paper, and the main thing is you could print it on a piece of paper, and it was one box of ammo, and you could do it at a range that didn't make you draw, or you could enhance it by shooting 100 rounds at it, or to do it twice, or do it on a bigger piece of paper or a smaller piece of paper. There's nothing stopping you from shrinking that down. And then you could do it from a draw if you had a range that would let you do it, or in your backyard or whatever. So the dot torture was amazing when it first came out, and for a minute there, it was like, I don't want to say, like, there was controversy about it. Like, you can't use my drill. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you saying to your drill? It's not your drill. So-and-so made it. And we came through all that, but that'll happen with everything, right? Like, somebody will come out with, I don't know, square bullet, and somebody will be like, oh, this is 20%. Somebody came out with a square bullet. You just copied off somebody's triangle bullet. Like, we're going to go through that over and over. And anyway, it's just been interesting to watch the stuff happening with training. And like this, it's, if you would have put something like this in front of Cooper, what do you think he'd have said? Do you think he'd have been like, oh, this is genius. I really like it. I can see how this works. Or would he be like, oh my goodness, what did you do to this gun?
I don't know, because if it allows you to get sight picture faster, I mean, he might have been about that. And it's pretty rugged. If he got to use it, I think he'd have a different opinion than if it was described to him.
For sure. And I don't know how to answer that question either, because I don't know the guy, or I don't know enough about him to know what he was like. But he would have had an opinion, I suppose, right? I doubt he would have been like, he probably would have had an opinion one way or the other. And well, how different would have things been if this was on the first revolvers, and then some version of this was on, the rail of the AR, or the what do you call that thing? The handle of the AR, and then some version of it was on pistols. And just ever since, we've had big cubes on the back of our guns with fiber optic lines. Oh,
I think it would have made. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's no glass on this. It's just it's like an open cage all the way through. Yeah, okay.
Yep, open cage all the way through. I think what it would have done probably would have made the acceptance of red dots a hell of a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because people would have electrified this instead of coming up out of nowhere, right?
Mm-hmm. So we would have been like, all right, well, this is the electrical version of this analog thing right here. It's like, okay, cool. I think that would have happened. I'm enjoying it, but I want to see, because I've shot close with it quickly. I've done that, and I hit where I aim at. But maybe 3 Sundays ago, or wherever the hell, maybe 3 Sundays ago. Yeah, 3 Sundays ago, I was in Jersey at the range, making sure all of my stuff was together before I went down to StreamYard. And I was shooting crazy left. And I thought it was me. So I asked the RSO to run some rounds through it, and he did, and center punched it. He was like, hey, that's you, asshole. So I was like, okay, that was me. Get this back, load it up again, concentrate on my fundamentals, hit where I was aiming at, no problem. Cool. Then I go to Train and Learn the next week. We're running through on Saturday. We're running through the pistol class, and I'm hitting where I'm aiming at again. I mean, I just had to, bring it back around. We were shooting small, aim small, miss small. So we were doing that kind of thing. And I was punching where I needed to be. But I did have to knock a little bit of rust off, like, hey, get it together, bro. It's not like I was missing, but it wasn't stacking it like I do sometimes when I'm on. And that's something I think everyone should know about themselves. It's like, dude, can I draw from concealment and freaking stack dimes? Or can I get, headshot at 10 yards? Yeah, no problem. Can you hit an eyeball at 15? Wait a minute. That's gonna take a lot of concentration.
Now this is the big question, or the big topic that I want to leave for the end, since the other ones are mostly guns. And we still do have 2 questions over there, but we're 90 minutes in. We've just been kind of rambling today, so please excuse that we don't get right to the subject. If you do have a question, and I don't even read them, so if one of these is urgent, I do apologize. If there's something that you'd rather us talk about, then just rambling. You're not going to be rude. Feel free to mention something. Now we'll, of course, decide whether or not we're going to jump on it or not. But you feel free to mention something. A lot of times we're just kind of rambling here. That being said, I am kind of quickly looking, and I don't see anything that. They're actually going to be good questions for next week. They're really cool questions. This one I don't think we've ever had. It says, I have a green card, and I'll leave it at that, right? Recently purchased my first handgun is the second one. So neither one of them seem like super urgent, but if I'm wrong, then feel free to jump in here and ask me again or bring something up. I'm going to go ahead and close that window, though, just so that it's not even open anymore. So we do have a couple of ones for next week, and I never really talk about it too often, but at askgunquestions.com, all it is a form, and we're not collecting emails or anything. Just ask a question over there, and then Tony and I will answer it eventually. So the topic is, though, I don't know if you saw the video from Reverend Ken Blanchard, but he posted this week that he officially took down the Black Man with a Gun podcast. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't even look, because I don't really kind of want to look, but I'm assuming that means he took down the feed, which is, you've done podcasts and stuff. You can just walk away from a feed and it just exists. It's just there. Nobody charges you to have it there. So that means it's I'm assuming if he did take it down, he intentionally went over there and actually took it down so that it's no longer there anymore. I don't know, thoughts? I know that, well, I'll shut up.
Yeah.
I don't know if
well, Reverend Ken.
You watched the video. Did you watch that video?
Is it the one where he talks about playing guitar?
That was the second one. It's a really short one. The first one, the one right before it, though, he says something like, I'll go find the name of it so I don't do it misjustice, but something like the what's going to happen to this channel, or whatever, the reason I did this to the channel, or something like that. I'll go find it.
No, I can. Let me see, Ken Blanchard.
End of a gun rights career, 16 views, which is kind of crazy. Here, I'll just play the fucking video. What's he gonna do? Copyright me? He don't care. So let me just play the video in case you haven't seen it and people know what we're talking about. I'm gonna bring it up, and it's on YouTube, but it looks like it's a short little, we call it Instagram type video. But end of a gun rights career, it says.
Dang.
Okay, so I guess I was reading it. This is the visuals that go with it, but there must be something. I thought I got more than this, or maybe it's just from the second video that you're talking about, because it was a good run here. Just a few pictures from the last 30 years of gun rights activism. I ended the Black Man with a Gun podcast feed today, which has started in 2007. On with the next chapter of my life, Reverend Ken Blanchard. And then the follow-up, this is like a 2-minute video. It's essentially a slideshow. But, I mean, for people that are paying attention, these are pictures from the 90s. These are pictures. These are photographs. It's somebody scanned some of them. That one with Nikki was probably more like 2012 or something. But, or maybe 2015 or 16, I guess. But, this one is a long time ago, I think. Maybe not.
Yeah.
That one's a while ago. There's buildings that still exist back
that was pre-2020. That was before 2001.
Right.
And then he put it back out again as Reloaded.
Right, he rewrote the book.
Hey, I was there.
This was 18, right? No, this was 19.
No, that was that might have been 20. And I know I was here because when they took the picture, I witnessed the picture in front of the Capitol because I was there.
Wait, are you talking about this? You were here? Why won't it stop?
That one.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I was there.
I was there too. Let's see. I was probably standing way over here watching this picture get made, but I wasn't standing in the picture.
They chased us all the way to take it. I was over to the left on the other side of Rob. I was watching it happen. Oh, Rob's on the far left.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I got
so yeah, I was over there watching them take it. I thought it was pretty cool because I just finished having breakfast with Cheryl Todd, Tim Knight over here on the left. There's Carrie in the middle, Carrie Sloan. Yep. Carrie Sloan is standing beside Josh Prince.
Yep.
So I had breakfast with her.
You know everybody in this
I
picture?
didn't speak of that one. Yeah, pretty much. I know everybody in the picture and probably have the phone numbers.
So we got Pincus, Maj, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who that is. Is that Craig DeLuz?
They're blurry. Yeah, that's Craig.
That's Craig. He's built, he's a muscular dude. That's the guy from FPC at the time, and now he's not with FPC
used
anymore.
to be.
He's a lawyer. Carrie, Eric, that guy you just said, Prince.
Josh Prince, Gabby.
Gabby Franco. And,
Gabby Franco. Ada, or...
Ada May, or Ida, something May.
Yeah. Kellyanne Pigeon. Ooh, that's bad.
There's what's his face?
Hiccup. Yeah.
Some guy.
Cam. That's Cam Edwards.
Oh, okay. There's Tim. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, it's Tim.
AD. Diana.
It's Kevin Dixie.
Yep. Diana. Could that be Eric?
Iraqi veteran 88. Eric,
He's shorter than Kevin. Then you got Cheryl. You got Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
You got
Edgar,
sorry. And then you got Jeff and Mike. And there's Reverend.
Michael. There's Michael Sedini. There's Reverend Ken. Mike Sedini's in the back.
Do you know who this guy is?
I'm lost over here. I'm lost on that.
I don't know who that guy is. I don't know who that guy is. And then this guy, I don't know who that is. But I was pretty much sitting on that steps over here when most of the stuff was happening. So I'm going to say I was in this, but I was standing over on the steps behind over there. So that's pretty neat. And, again, look where Reverend Kevin Blanchard is in this picture in 2019. This was a big deal because in 2019, it was pre any of the bullshit. And some people might say it was because of this type of situation. But in 2019, there had been, I'm going to say 16 state rallies. And this rally was in November. And it happened at almost spur of the moment. Like, it didn't have a lot of lead up. It was a theoretical thing. And I think we're allowed to talk about it now. There was people that had been, I think we're allowed to talk. I'm going to fucking talk about it anyway. The people that had been big money donors of the NRA were upset with the NRA, and they wanted a rally, and NRA wouldn't do a rally. So they said, we're going to take some money and put it to a rally, but it can't be anything. It can't be Democrat. It can't be Republican. It can't be any organization. It can't be anything. You can invite who you want, and it can be guns, Second Amendment focused, but nobody's going to own this. It's just going to be a rally, period. And it's going to be in Washington, D.C. And they told Pincus and Jeff Knox, these two dudes, to put it together. And I don't know if they even like each other, but they worked together to do it. I mean, I don't think they hated each other. I just don't think they ever hung out together, really. So I don't know. I think they just picked these two people that actually cared about what was going on with the NRA and were aware of what was going on with the NRA and that were able to do it and weren't polarized in the community. There's people that if they would have tasked with doing this, it would have never happened because they're assholes and want to get their pictures in front of everything. Anyway, so these guys made this rally happen, and it was pretty significant. And I guess what I'm getting at, just kind of remember, talking about old times for people that don't remember the significance of the 2A rally in 2019, the fact that it just happened anonymously and without any backing by any organization. It was supported by all organizations, but no organization could say they owned it because they fucking didn't. It was just some couple of 3 or 4 people that had some money, from what I understand, asked a couple of people who were willing to do it, be anonymous for them. And I thought that was cool. So anyway, it happened, and look at the people who are standing in front. Look at the people who aren't even in the picture, and look at the people who are still in the game, right? And I think there was a bit of if you were comfortable with the fight, you were in the fight or not. And then people that are desperately fucking seeking attention and limelight. There's some of that too. And this was a way that they could grab a bunch of that. No matter, it was a smaller flame, but they could get a bigger piece of the smaller flame, right? We've got some people in this picture that are like that. But you can kind of tell
I'm just laughing because I've scrolled through my pictures now. I'm looking at the ones I took
from that day.
And yeah, from that day.
And it was
and
just it happened. I think New York Outcast was there too. He's still out
there. Oh yeah, because I have a picture of me behind Kevin Dixie, and I knew what he was going to do because Kevin's a friend of mine, and I've listened to him speak. We've had conversations, and I listened to him say 1776 and set the crowd up. Remember that part of the speech or not?
Oh yeah, he did that at the Gun Rights Policy Conference too, and shut everybody up.
Mm-hmm. And when he said it, I was like, here we go. And I thought that was just an important thing to make people aware. But I'm looking at it, and I think the guy over in the far right corner behind whoever this is in the shades, so him, yep, that guy, I think he might have been the former head of the Brady campaign.
Oh yeah, somebody like that was there.
Yeah, Rob invited him. Rob invited him so we could actually have a conversation with someone on the other side and get out of the echo chamber that we're in to actually ask questions and have a conversation about what they think. Now, I don't believe it worked out as well for us as it did for him, because he went on to write articles about what we think and as gun people. And the funny thing is, his side didn't want to hear it either. They don't want to see us as human beings because it doesn't work out for them that well. We all have to be racist, yada, yada, fill in the blank of whatever you've been called. Mm-hmm. And our side, of course, has to see the other side as some kind of enemy too. And it's up to people like myself, Mosh, everybody, every gun owner, to let people see, hey, no, that's my cousin that's voted Democrat their whole life, but they want to stand up for their Second Amendment right. But what do they do when the entire party has a national, foundation or excuse me, their national platform is anti-gun? Well, you better give them some ideas. Like, okay, your national foundation is anti-gun platform. You better work on your local. You better make a difference locally, because you're not going to make a difference in a national election when we talk to people one-on-one. My 20-person event is not going to affect, even though I have it over 20 times a year. If I maxed out every one of them, I'm still seeing under 500 people. That's not going to swing a national election. But me seeing 500 people in New Jersey will affect who's elected locally, or could affect who's elected locally, and it could affect who's elected in Jersey.
That's critical.
Because it's not the same.
So Eva, Dragonman's daughter, he's got two daughters, Melissa and Eva.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You've probably been on her show before, right?
I was on the very first podcast Ava was ever on.
Okay, so then, like, I've only met her like once or twice and talked to her on the phone a couple of times when I visited Dragonman the first time, but I've never.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, she's started working with or for an organization that's focused on understanding which, I think they're called districts in Colorado, are like already 100% Republican, which one are 100% Democrat, and then you take what's left and you look at which ones of those that could go either way are mostly going to go Democrat or mostly going to go Republican, and then actually work on the ones that can be swayed, right? So like, instead of just saying, oh, it would be nice if we had a bunch of people who liked our rights, but instead, or alternatively, like, look at who's actually in, what's it called? Like, in susceptible to being primary,
replaced, or
yeah, like, I think a lot of times when they say primary, you run somebody against somebody who's incumbent with a policy, and if that challenger gets a shit ton of votes, that incumbent knows, holy shit, that policy is important because this person is running on one policy and one policy only. They almost got elected with one policy. I better worry about that policy. So I think that's the true power of what's that called? I just said it, of a primary, primarying for somebody. It's really, I mean, if you win, great, but now you have somebody who's never been in politics before. I mean, that's probably good, but not always. It's just another situation where you got to learn. But if you've got somebody who knows what they're doing and has some seats on different committees and is, doing the politic thing and they like it, then they just need to know what people want. And if they won't listen, sometimes you show them by challenging their position and they go, oh shit. So ideally that would be, if you, and the thing is, if you've got X, like, even though Colorado should have, I mean, how many shit tons of dollars does Colorado have? It has a shit ton of dollars. Second, third largest organization in the country is in Colorado, but still we have Colorado in jeopardy. So anyway, I'm just saying people like Eva are focusing on the actual districts, and like what you're talking about, having the ability to sway 100 people doesn't sound like a lot, but if you've got the ear of 100 people and they're all in the area that they can go, you know what, I can make a difference with a primary vote because of what we just said there, and then boom, that can make differences. And we don't have to have everything immediately go our way if we can start to push and they start to realize why we're pushing. Anyway.
Yep, 100%.
About 30 people in this picture, and 6 of them are ladies. But aside from the gender diversity, I think and then I figured out this is the guy from Minnesota, I'm pretty sure, one of the Dorr brothers. That's this guy. So there's only one person in this photograph, this dude who's got sunglasses on, and for the life of me, I can't figure out who that is. And this guy, and right, this guy, and that guy, dudes that we can't figure out. And this guy, nope, I'm still not going to figure it out.
Is that a black guy in the back?
Yeah, this guy is.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of. There was I'm going to say, I mean, I don't know anymore, but there were definitely more than one group of people there that were not your typical gun owner. There was a couple of Yahoo groups there, and there was some Reddit kids, but there was you just fill in the blank with anything, like whatever you want to call diversity. There was groups there. I mean, that's what I was kind of getting at. Just look at this group of people. This isn't what your standard people think of as gun owners. This looks like a gun range or something, right? This looks like the people walking around a gun show. And when you start thinking about where they're from, like what their positions are, what they're championing in the community, like the diversity is even crazier. I could go through it all the same way we just identified everybody. Pretty much everybody here is still in the game, except for the YouTubers who were only test marketing to see if it was worth their time. But everybody else is still in the game, except for this guy. He's still around.
Who's that? Where we going?
Oh, Tim. Is that his name? The guy, Tim something.
From
No, this guy.
Oh, Tim Heron, Military Home Channels?
No.
Oh, Tim Knight.
Tim Knight, yeah. I didn't remember his last name.
Yeah. Tim hangs on the periphery. Tim's not going to go away. Tim hangs on the periphery doing other stuff.
So, and then this guy, we didn't know who he was. So essentially, there's only a couple of 3 or 4 people in this whole picture that aren't still kicking ass and seriously, really doing well. Like pretty much everybody in this picture is doing well, I think. Yeah, I think so. Unfortunately for some, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Edgar, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, nobody's all rich or nothing, but they're still kicking and they're still doing stuff.
Is that John? Was John Patton there? Because that's what that dude looks like a little bit.
This guy here?
The guy behind Tim Knight.
Yeah. No, that's the guy from Minnesota, the Dorr brother. I mean, he kind of looks like Patton, but he is, because Patton isn't that tall. He'd never be looking over somebody's shoulder. And not Tim's, because Tim's pretty tall. Look, he's almost.
Yeah, John's 6'2".
Yeah.
John's 6'2". Him and I are the same height. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But no, I don't think that's him, because 1, he wasn't there, and 2, I'm pretty sure it's that guy. But anyway, I guess I was just going to say, I think that's one of the reasons they were scared of 2020, because this rally motivated a shit ton of people, because there was so many people that were shit on this rally. One, they were just scared to go. They were too cheap to go. Cost money. One of the reasons I was in debt, I can say was, I can finally say fucking was. But one of the reasons I was in debt for fucking years is because I decided, fuck it, I'm going to this rally. I want to be at this rally. So I drove from Tucson to that rally on the spur of the moment, and just, all that gas money and shit on the credit cards. I did have some help. I sold some stuff and people helped, but you know how it is when you're driving, or, when you're doing something that just kills any income coming in. It's just all expense, but it was totally worth it in the retrospect or whatever. That being said, I'm going to give it more significance than it deserves, perhaps because, one, I was there, and two, I spent so much money getting there. But I really do, and I know, seriously, everybody except for this guy and that guy, and I might know these other people, but essentially except for those couple of guys and that guy who you're talking about from the gun thing, I don't know them. But I either know all these people, I literally have everybody's autograph except for Carrie and from the book, right? Like that one year that I did the book, I gave it to Cheryl, so Cheryl has that book. But well, I didn't get Tim's autograph, and I didn't give a shit about what's his face over here. But everybody else, that's probably when I met Cam, is getting his autograph for the book. Anyway, so all these people, I'm just saying that I think that they all inspired a shit ton of rallies. We were going to have 20 something rallies, I think it was 20 rallies in 2020. There only ended up being like 4 or 5 because of the way everything got shut down. But I seriously, I don't care what anybody says. I believe a big chunk of the reason they decided to shut everything down was because they saw this. They saw that this is the face of gun ownership. These people are going to go out and have 20 more rallies like this. We can't demonize guns anymore. Like they were not. How could, you know what I'm saying? Like, this was our. Let's go. We had as Second Amendment activists, not gun people, but Second Amendment activists without a fucking gun, because we were like, we'll disarm your stupid ass laws. Like, we'll do it. And again, that was a big decision. There was a bunch of people that didn't have the balls to show up unarmed and do this. And it would have been a different rally if we were all carrying machine guns, because we saw, what happened a couple of years later when they all got scared of no guns, right? I think no guns on the 6th, right? We'll not talk about it, but anyway, I'll shut up.
Well, I think this rally happened with a very little fanfare. Also ticked off that I didn't get to speak at this one. They were short a couple of speakers, and I was talking to Kellyanne Pidgeot, and Rob Pincus came up and goes, "Hey, either one of you able to speak?" And I was like, Kelly was like, "I can do it." And he was like, "All right, go with you. You're on in 15 minutes. I'm like, mother effer.
But anybody that knows Kelly, I don't know, but I've seen her enough to know that, she probably was all ready to go by the time he said, like, the second word, right? Like, she's definitely a volunteerist.
Oh, yeah. I was ready to go. She was ready to go. She was quicker than me. And I think it went with the right decision. I became a better speaker over time. I think I was okay then, but I'm better now. Just impromptu. Can you speak? But what happened 2 months after this was 2 months after this, January 2020, was the Virginia rally that had tens of, like thousands of people. This had maybe 2,000 people.
No, but well, the problem is, no matter how many people were here, it wasn't what they expected, and some sports shit happened. Something like the Super Bowl or something happened, and every sports person in the East Coast showed up. So this could have been giant, and it would have looked tiny to that sports event. Look, it filled the entire Washington D.C. with a giant sports parade. It was insane. And we had
we were across the street from World Series.
World Series, okay.
It was a World Series parade. Yep.
Yeah, crazy. I won't say that was set up to work against us, but it worked against us. Like, a bunch of people didn't show up because they lived there, and they're like, "There's no way I'm showing up when the World Series just happened." Nope. And they were right, because it was insane. It went from being like, "Oh, look at this is pretty crowded," because none of us live in Washington D.C. We're like, "Oh yeah, this is pretty crowded," but we got here, and then it turned into like whoosh, just like a waterfall of humans coming out from everywhere. There was not a parking spot within 100 miles of D.C., and you couldn't get an Uber. It was crazy. It went from just a regular day to, well, the World Series, and what Washington D.C. won the World Series or something. It was crazy. But that's a whole other topic. I guess I was saying, I think that one of the reasons they were scared of letting everybody gather that year is because they were seeing stuff like this start to happen. And did you say the Virginia one happened just a few weeks after this, like a month and a half after this? I never put two and two together, but yeah, that was a massive rally too. I had to kick him out. He wasn't answering my questions fast enough. We might let him back in here. So New York Outcast was there. I don't know if he wants to wane on the day. It was pretty neat. So this was a photo they took sort of at the middle, at the end. Or did they take this at the beginning? I'm trying to remember now. They might have taken this at the beginning, but because you can tell by the sun that it isn't quite like it's kind of still up in the air. But because there was so many people around, unless they pushed them way back behind to take this picture, which they could have, but it looks like they're far away from the stairs. Anyway, so I don't remember when they took this picture, but I do remember that a good chunk of this lawn or whatever it's called was fenced off because they were reseeding it. You couldn't walk on it because it was just all dirt and mud anyway. And we were respectful of that. So we were all standing in the grass. But I would, before all the sports happened, I would walk away from this whole event and then to get pictures mainly, because there's a lot of places you can walk, go up a statue and then take pictures. So I was trying to get pictures of the event for just to get pictures, but also so we could count how many people were there. And I remember we did a video. I took all my still images and I counted head by head how many people were there so that we would know how many people were there. But anyway, when I did that, I would walk away from the event and kind of walk back over to it. And when I was away from the event, I might sit there for a minute to wait for a better picture or see if something happened or something, I get a better picture. And as I was away from the event, just listening, as the sports people were showing up, I got to listen to, or got to hear, I guess, overhear what people were saying about either the crowd. We didn't really have a lot of banners. There was some banners, I guess, some signs and stuff. So you could tell that we were a gun thing, but there was no guns, right? And there was no gun pictures really. And it definitely wasn't anti-gun, right? So listening to some of the conversations as people were walking by was super interesting. I just remember that being really interesting. They called everyone in for the photo. Okay. And then, anyway, I don't know what happened to Tony. So I don't know if his phone died or what. But we're watching a video here from Ken Blanchard, who essentially says, end of a gun rights career. And then said in the comments or in the, what do you call it, the description of this video, that he has taken down the Black Man with a Gun podcast that he started in 2007. So I always say it, and I'll say it again. We're not, what's the word? We're not owed anything. Nobody owes us their time or their efforts. We should thank the folks that are putting in the effort while they do, and I guess not take it for granted. Maybe is what I'm trying to say, and appreciate those folks that do the things when they do them, because they're not going to do the whole thing. They're not going to do it forever, but they are going to inspire others to jump on board and do a bit. And just like any collaborative effort, right? A bunch of us together, we each accomplish more. That's what teamwork's all about. So, you know, we each can grab on for a little while and move the thing. Ideally, instead of just the muscle, we're also relaying some of the strategy. There we go. Sorry, I had to kick you out, but you weren't answering fast enough, so I put you on timeout. Did your battery die or something?
Just lost freaking what you call it, signal.
Yeah. Are you in one location or are you driving?
No, I'm in one location.
Okay. Does your internet just drop every once in a while where you're at?
Every now and again, yeah.
Yeah, that's annoying. Mine will do that too. I got it faster than it ever was, but it'll still just drop for every once in a while. I imagine it's probably some kind of server resets along the way. Something. Maybe somebody crashes into a pole and it takes that long to reroute.
Hold on. Let me. It's Bobby Day Gun Rights 2020, Richmond, Virginia. So it was what we were talking about before, the lobby in Richmond,
Okay. Yeah.
where they had the Second Amendment Day. That was
Was it,
January 20th. Mm-hmm.
but of 20, like weeks after the 19 rally?
Yep. It was
Okay.
weeks after the 19 rally. They tried to hype it up and try to make it seem like a bunch of white supremacists. Because my brother lives in Richmond, and this is the bull crap they were pushing. That it was just going to be a bunch of Nazis and a whole. It was just a bunch of horse crap. 22,000 people showed up, and I agree with you. I think our little thing that might have been 2,000 people with very little fanfare kicked off with a diverse group of people. And then weeks later, 22,000 showed up from all across all demographics, and they were armed. And I think that was just like, oh yeah, this cannot happen.
No, dude, I didn't even think about that. Oh, I got my microphone on the wrong way. That's probably better. But no, that's a great point. And I always think, I don't ever think, I occasionally think of the 2019 rally. That's probably the most I've talked about it in a while. But now that you're mentioning that, I haven't put two and two together like that. That all the stuff that, because I can remember, because I spent a lot of money. Like I was already in debt. I wasn't like sitting around with a bunch of extra money and decided to spend some of my riches on going to DC. I was in like pretty bad debt, and I was wondering if there was no win there, but I was wondering like if it was worth the risk of, you know, just throwing a bit more debt on, since I was already in pretty bad debt, like tens of thousands of dollars in debt. So for me, it was like a real debate. And one of the reasons that I ended up going was because the debate got to, you can't have this rally. It can't be six. I shouldn't say you can't have it. You can't be successful with that rally if you don't bring guns. And that was a big, I don't know what to call it, like pushback or a big issue, I guess, that people had. And it's tough. You know, it's easy to say after the fact that they were just a bunch of people that were never going to go anyway. And they were just trying to look for some cool excuse that would make them look like the tough guy on the internet. So they'd say, oh, well, if you're not going to let me bring my guns, I'm not going because I can only go with my guns. I'm so cool that I have to have my guns with me all the time. You know, I can understand that concept, but I also don't respect people that don't fucking show up just because of, you know, it's inconvenient or hard or whatever when there's work to get done. But anyway, so that's one of the reasons I went, and one of the reasons I guess I focus on it. But I didn't think about how you're saying, essentially the, I don't know what to call it, like the bounce back, or the, you know, if that was an inhale, the exhale was the Virginia one for all those people who were no talk, or what is it, all talk and no action. They could finally go, show up and do it, and they did, which is fine. Like, good, that's awesome. And what happened was a massive success. Like a shit ton of people showed up, scared the crap out of a bunch of people for no reason, because they're just so scared of people who just have property, and people that showed up with property and went home like no big deal, no issue. Obviously super safe, right? You know, because nobody's going to do nothing stupid in that kind of situation, bad guys or good guys. Like everybody's just going to, you know, be on their best behavior. Like there's, when you go to barbecues, how often do people get into big gunfights and barbecues? Like very rarely. It happens. It doesn't, but most of the time people don't want to ruin their barbecue gun. Anyway, so it was I don't know what to call it, like the yin and yang, right? Like it was the opposite, but complementary opposite to the other rally. And it let off steam, and it showed that we can have both kinds of rallies. And like you said, it also scared the freaking shit out of the other side, who went, we thought it was going to be like this, and it wasn't. That scares us. But then they had one like what we thought it was going to be, and it was peaceful. So that scares us. Like they have more people show up. Again, do nothing with their people that show up.
Understand, sometimes the people that witness something is the worst, or some of the worst witnesses of an event. So we were there and we did our rally, right? You were there. At the time, I thought it was cool, the number of people that showed up. I didn't know anything about the sports ball thing, because the breakfast we had was close. It was like a mile away. So I'd taken a cab there, or Uber there. It was a cab. I took a cab there. So I had no car to park. We had breakfast with all these guys much earlier, and then we walked down to the event because I was obviously hanging out with 6 or 7 of the speakers that were going to be there. So we showed up early. So I never knew about the traffic. I never knew about the parking. So like when you're talking about, man, traffic was crazy, couldn't park near, didn't know any of that. Now when I'm reading, because this was the same time, the Virginia event took place at the same time as SHOT Show on the
Right, and that's
20th.
another reason that I almost always don't think about it, because I'm at SHOT Show and I'm always like, yeah, sorry, Virginia, but
Yep.
you're the one who chose to do your legislator day at SHOT Show time. Or the SHOT Show should really move.
So
It's ridiculous that they leave an important state like Virginia out, but that's a whole other story, I guess.
yeah, so the 2020 rally happened. This is 17th year they've done it, and this is when they do it. What we forget is they were pushing this thing that was going to be a bunch of neo-Nazis there, and then right before it happened, they arrested 3 neo-Nazis in Maryland, and they tried to freaking connect it to the Virginia rally, to the point that the governor declared a state of emergency in Virginia, and all the legislators didn't show up. My brother was pretty much, because he lives right outside of Richmond, like right outside of Richmond, and was told not to come to work that day. And he was like, "Yeah, it's gonna be," and I was like, "No, it's not." He's like, "Well, that's what they're saying." I'm like, "They're lying to you to make you afraid." I was like, "I know about 30 people that are at that rally, and not one of them is a neo-Nazi or even close." And I was like, "Hell, half of them aren't even white." I'm like, "You're being sold a bill of goods because they need you afraid." And all of a sudden, there was no violence in Virginia when 20,000 people with guns showed up. Crazy. No one got carjacked. Crazy. All of a sudden, Richmond was safe. But I'm just trying to remember it. Now I went back and read the Wikipedia entry, and I'm like, oh, yeah, they were trying to tie this and try to make it look like it was something it wasn't. Then I remember the phone conversation with my brother that day from Vegas and the whole thing. And it was insane. It was insane that they tried to make us seem like horrible people. And then when it didn't work, all of a sudden we had a problem, and COVID came, and we couldn't have rallies anymore, and you couldn't be within 6 feet of people anymore. And I'm like, because like you said, because I remember promoting all these rallies, remember? Because they had posters up. There were supposed to be rallies in each state. There were 2A groups in each state putting them together. And I started promoting them all over the place, because people finally had enough and were standing up. So now they've spent the last 3 years pushing the divisive agenda, trying to break us apart. And in some ways this works, because you can't get stuff together. You can't get more than 10 people in a room without someone trying to start something, as if it's impossible to get past or work through.
Well, that's kind of what I was, asking before about if you thought that, this new round of, I don't know what to call it, like fight and win, we kind of won. Like they put an unconstitutional shit out there. We challenged it, and then, it was in our favor. So is that a win? No, but it's not a loss, right? It's they tried something and we had to put them in their place, and it cost us some time and attention. It's a win, but what did we lose? Like, what would have happened if this didn't happen and we would have been working towards the other direction, if we would have been working to get back rights? So I look at it sometimes that way too, that this took a bunch of time and effort. I mean, it's about 3 years worth of bullshit. If you count bump stocks, a little bit longer because of Trump, but then receivers, frames and receivers, pistol braces and triggers. I don't remember. They've got a couple of different ways that they're attacking people, and not to mention the 0% issue with gun shops and the lack of actual whatever the ATF is doing or whatever. So anyway, I'm saying there's definitely a lot going on, but at the same time, they threw all this shit out there. We didn't hack away something like the NFA that's been a burden forever, or the 1986 Hughes Amendment that's been annoying forever, right? We were just not really defending ourselves, but we were going through the motions that they instigated, and that's frustrating. So that's why I can't call it a win. It's a success, but it's not like if we would have decided we want to take something and then we won it, like we took it. We just defended ourselves from having things taken. Anyway, so I guess I was getting at, we could have a whole discussion on on the evolution of that, because what I was, I guess, running around, going back to what I said before, that we've got time on the clock watching these things happen. And I'm just assuming, just because of being a content creator and having some awareness, because I actually pay attention to the audiences out there, I know that audiences change, right? And they kind of transition over time, I suppose. You know, some people come and go, and, you know, it doesn't happen like, I mean, unless you do something horrible, people don't just leave all at once. And unless you do something viral, people don't show up all at once. But, you know, there's attrition and growth and whatever, all these, you know, factors. So, you know, as a content creator over an amount of time, and anybody who's just paying attention to content over time, you realize that the people standing next to you in the audience are different. And everyone who's listening to this knows that they jumped in at one time, and you must know that you're going to stop listening at some time, right? Like at some point you're going to get sick of this and all of this, and you're going to go do something else. And that's just the tendency of the world. So I guess the people that are really playing the big game watch the trends and have some kind of insight as to what's coming, and they know just when to put the most, that's what I call the exploiters, the people that know just when to put down the right flavor of ice cream when it's summer and everybody's hot, rather than somebody who just puts down an ice cream cone every single month of the year and is happy when they make more money and is sad when they don't make money. You know, some people are just playing the game and other people are playing the game. Anyway, what am I rambling here about? I just, you know, it's an interesting thing to take a look back. We started all this, though, tying this all back. We were watching a video from Ken Blanchard, and I think I was asking you, and I think I pulled up the wrong video, because I can swear that maybe it is this one. Did you watch this video? This one is 3 minutes long, and he's mostly talking about how he's starting a new channel, but he kind of, I think, mentions the fact that he's stopping the Black Man with a Gun podcast since 2007. So
see, that was what I.
Okay.
I started looking at that like last night, and I was like, "It's Reverend Ken Blanchard, and I'm a guitar. If you didn't know, I've been dragging a guitar around for a really long time." And I was like, "I'm gonna sleep, and I'm gonna look him up tomorrow." And I just hadn't got around to looking him up tomorrow, so that might have been it. So when he first interviewed me forever ago, and I was blown away, because he was one of the people that motivated me into Second Amendment advocacy, and even starting a podcast or starting podcasting. Like I had a lot of people that put in work, and I looked up to them as mentors or as examples, and he was one of them. And he told me, be ready to switch it up. Be ready to switch it off. Do not allow advocacy to break up your family, or break you financially. He was like, because I've been through lean times, and we were talking about it, and it was personal stuff. But I'm talking to a dude that was he with the CIA or the NSA? He was with one of the,
CIA.
You know, he was yeah, CIA. He was a big effing deal. He was a United States Marine. He was with the CIA. He did heavy hitter stuff. Became a reverend. He didn't forget that you still have to be able to protect yourself, and he brought that to his flock. And pretty much there are elements in his church that did not want him to be pro Second Amendment and didn't want him to teach that, and he left the church, had to get another job, went out on his own, and did his thing. So Reverend has been willing. I asked him, how do you go from being in the CIA? And at the time, he was working as a security guard, like an unarmed security guard somewhere. And I'm like, how do you go from being in the CIA to working on a dock as an unarmed security guard? And he was like, I have to feed my family. And God makes you humble if you're not. And that's when he told me, be prepared to, if this doesn't work out, be able to take care of your family first, because Second Amendment advocacy is always going to be there. There's always going to be this fight is always going to exist. And if you have to walk away to feed your family, then do so. And that stuck with me as an option, because over the years I've been doing this, and you've seen it. You've seen people come and you've seen people go. And I've had discussions with people that was like, hey, I can't do this anymore because fill in the blank. And I've told each and every one of them the same story that I just told you. And I'm like, if the guy who wrote the book can walk away and come back, you can walk away and come back. So my whole thing is, I'm glad he was there. He motivated me. He was an example. Again, being a United States Marine and being a Second Amendment advocate and being a black dude in this space when he was pretty much the black dude in this space, I'm standing on his shoulders. And so is Maj, and so is Kevin Dixie, and so is Coleon Noir. All of us are here because of him. And one of the coolest things I can say is at that 2019 rally, when all of us were together, dude, you should have seen the line of young black Second Amendment advocates that were around him, telling him, because of him, we're doing what we're doing. I don't know how many times you see that in person when people come up to you and look at you like, bro, I wouldn't be here if it was because of you. Like, I would not be doing this if I didn't see that you'd already done it. You were able to do it in a classy way that doesn't make it all about race, but it is a factor. You know what I mean? Because you're trying to reach an audience and you're trying to talk to people that look like us. And we're here to tell you, not only did we hear you, we want to emulate you and take it to the next level. So I was glad I'm able to actually talk to him like that. And he's contacted me after that, like personally. And it's one of the coolest things ever to not fanboy out to somebody as humble as him. You know what I mean? It's like talking to Reverend Ken Blanchard. Like, this is so effing cool.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just trying to think, like, you know, as I think it was Chris was saying something. You commented on Chris's post. Kristen had posted something, and you know, he's growing. He's not viral growing. He's growing because he's doing good stuff, and people are like word of mouth type of actual growth, like the kind of healthy growth you expect a channel to do when you're doing everything right. So, you know, creating content that people want to see and focusing on and doing it regularly and all that. So, you know, so he's experiencing growth. And the problem is when you like, because it's different when you get viral growth where you go from like 0 to 1 million subs. You don't have any time to see that. You go from light to dark. You go from night to day, right? Like it's black and white, like boom, boom, off and on. When you have a time to experience the growth, then everything I've kind of been mentioning here, plus way more people. So just the people that come and go over time, you know, like some people who are your most supportive what do you call like audience, like the, you know, friends out there, people that you can count on to be there to leave a comment or to make a question or stuff, like the people that you're probably thinking of when you're talking into the microphone, like they're the people you envision on the other side of the microphone or the other side of the table. That goes away when you get to, I don't know, it's going to be different for everybody, I suppose. Let's say 1,000 people, 10,000 subs, 30,000 subs, somewhere in there, you start to get people who just are, you know, coming at it from more than just appreciating what you're doing. Like now they're just passersby and they got nothing else to do, or maybe they're sadists or something. I don't know what to call people that just break shit to break shit. You know, you're just going to encounter way more people because those people might only be one in every 30,000, but as soon as you get to 60 or 90,000, you got 3 of them. Right now you've got 30 of them, and in some level of them, maybe you got 300 of those, and maybe there's 3 of them that are bad, but there's 300 of them that'll go, yeah, do it, ha ha ha, you know. And now, you know, you just get the random graffiti tagger, and then enough people that appreciate it that never pull it down. Anyway, so you know, you just you're running. I'm trying to describe so many different things that'll happen as you experience a growth in audience. Anyway, Chris kind of lashed out, like got frustrated or something. And I guess, you know what I'm saying? So essentially what I'm saying is that's a easy one. Once you get frustrated by the abuse that the anonymous commenters will give, anybody can understand this. You don't have to have 1,000 subs or 10,000 subs to understand that at some point your content is going to get so much traffic that you're going to get the haters, the people that are just weird, and the people that are just angry and taking it out on you. And it takes you a while as a human being, especially if it doesn't happen overnight. It takes you a while to figure out, those people aren't mad at me. Those people are mad at themselves, or those people had a bad day and this is their way of like this is, they think they're funny. Or maybe you figure out like, oh, they're making money with this. Like every time I engage them, their channel goes up and they're making a shit ton of money by just going around and being a dick. So anyway, so it takes a while to kind of get used to all that. And just like anything, what I experienced 10 years ago going through that phase is going to be different from somebody today going through that phase. And the phase is probably different. It's different humans and all that kind of stuff. So that being said, can you imagine what it's like for Reverend Ken Blanchard? I keep saying Reverend. I'm trying to be respectful, but I don't know if I need to say it every time. So Ken, I'm just going to say Ken. Can you imagine what it's like for him over the years, just being a regular guy, deciding to do what he's going to do, taking some shit because he was a path finder on that shit. He created paths that no one had yet. So I'm sure he took abuse that he doesn't even bring up. Obviously, right? And then probably some kickback just because you're just as soon as you become one of a couple of people doing something, somebody's gonna go, hey, how are you doing? I don't like the way you're doing it because I like the way they're doing it. Like, fuck you, like you start to get that kind of shit. And his calluses had to be different because somebody had to get up off their ass, go there and show up. This is the days before fax machines in the 90s and shit or whatever, in the days of fax machines, I guess. But you know what I mean? Somebody had to like show up to be a dick to him. So it had to be still different when somebody's in an audience of a show like Oprah, like booing you. That's a little different than somebody on the internet just saying boo. Like, shit, this guy cares enough to show up and boo me. Like, crap. Anyway, so there's, what I'm saying? Like, it's got to be just such a trip being that guy in the time frames that he overlaps or whatever. I just wonder what it's like. I know what it's like when people come up to me and go, oh, blah, blah, blah about my videos. And I'm like, dude, that's a video I made in 2014 when I was farting around because I was bored because I was trying to do some other video. I needed to take a break and do this other one, like the ninja video. It's just like letting off steam, making fun of somebody else's video type of thing. And then it became a thing. So I played with it like 4 times, but don't come over to me acting like I thought about that, or it's like, a chunk of our channel or something. And some people just don't get it, or, you know what I mean? Like I've dealt with some little tiny minor versions of that where it's like, somebody comes up and says something that you don't expect about something that you did. And I can't imagine just because he's had so much time on the clock and he does stuff. He does so much more than me. I'm sure people are coming up to him more often than me because I'm never doing anything and people come up to me. So I'm just saying, I can't imagine what it's like for him to have experienced that for so many decades, really, all that time.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm guessing I'm saying I'm every around by the way and saying maybe it wears you out in a way that I can't understand because I've never walked a mile. I haven't walked half a mile in his shoes. You know what I mean? Like he might have been worn out on things that I can't even imagine.
It has to be, dude. When you're at dinner with Wayne LaPierre on a regular basis, you know what I mean? And then when push comes to shove and legislation comes, or you're trying to put something together and you get no feedback from the NRA at all, it was like, wait a minute. A week ago, you know what I mean? Like, hey, if you need anything, Ken, let me know. Okay, hey, I need something. Hello? New phone, who this? Seeing that happen over and over and over and over again. Being the guy that is taking the heat because you are the black guy in the gun, in the Second Amendment thing in the 90s, in the 2000s. I mean, none of us joined. Again, the guys that were surrounding Reverend Ken that day, all of us showed up after 2015. He'd been there a quarter of a century by the time we showed up. So I can't imagine everything he's seen, went through, how many advocates he saw come up and then disappear, how many people were in it for the money, got paid and took off. Like, you lay that groundwork for an entire career. Most people's career is not 25 years. And then all of a sudden it hits. The time has come in 2015 for all these groups. NAGA shows up. I start my thing. Maj starts his thing. All of a sudden, Coleon Noir is taking off. Diana Mueller starts her thing. Million Moms Demand. All of a sudden, pretty much at one shot in a year, And for four of us, the same month in that year, February 2015, we all started this thing. And to have been around for 25 years before that and then see it kick off, you got to be like, one part is, yay, that's awesome. And the other part is like, you were the guy that invented the wheel and it didn't take off until Henry Ford came up with the car and then he sold millions of them. You know what I mean? Or internal combustion engines or black paint. I don't know. Whatever you want to put it on, you did something significant. And without you and the timing all came together that a whole bunch of other people started doing it too. And they were getting the positives that you didn't get or that you had to fight to get for a long time.
Yeah, like the recognition and the
Yeah.
and then like
The recognition without the recognition without the fight.
I don't want to say that.
You know what I
I
mean?
hear what you're saying, because I don't even want to put that on Ken, because I can't see Ken giving the shit there. I think that he had to do it in the time of fax machines, and he wrote a book. And as you were saying, that I didn't want to interrupt, but I'm guessing most of the advocacy, quote unquote, was like Paxton Quigley, Black Man with a Gun.
Mhm.
She wrote something like Girl with a Gunner. I forgot what her name of her book was off the top of my head, but she wrote a book about armed and female or something like that. Then there was I can't think of the name of the lady who became a legislator in Texas from Luby's Cafeteria.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about. I
She
just
ended
can't
up
figure
writing
it
a
out.
book. But she wrote a book too, because this was, again, you had to be on Oprah, you had to be on Maury Povich or something, and then you write a book, and that was it. There was you could be in the newspaper or something, but there was no other media, right? They weren't going to make a movie about you, and you might get on a radio show once in a while, but that's about the only way you could get the word out. So I'm guessing that the advocacy, quote unquote, was, let's bring Ken on as the token gun guy or the token black guy or the token military guy for whatever the topic of the day was, right? Like, hey, something happened. Probably, I mean, I can't even imagine. With his background, it could have been anything from news of the day internationally or like some kind of violence. They really didn't exploit violence that really back in the day. So, probably bringing him on for something more like a crime that was on the TV or like, some like murders or something like that. Was the thing that people were looking at in the 80s was like a family or somebody got murdered or something, or like a kid that went missing. Like it was the era of the missing kids, and you'd have an expert in their field or like the token gun guy come on to talk about the gun in this like week long worrying about a crime that happened in some state. So I'm guessing a lot of his advocacy was, you come on as the author of this book and talk to us about whatever we need to hear about for 5 or 10 minutes, and then you're out of here. And he probably had a lot of interactions and paid dues. I don't know what to call it. Like, I'm going to say paying dues, but, like had to fight in that way, because that was the way you had to fight back then. And I don't think he's unaware that when you all came around in 15, that it was the internet. It was different. And it was a different type of fight. Just like, I don't think anybody in World War II would be like, you fuckers are using M16s. Like, you got it easy. They'd say that to us. They would, but they wouldn't hold it against us in reality. You know what I mean? They'd give a shit about it, but they'd understand that you have to fight with the weapons of the day. So I think that he understands that y'all have a different fight, but I think I'm putting a lot of credit on him, but I've listened to a lot of interviews. I've been around him enough to think that I'm correct in saying that he appreciates the options that you had and the other opportunities, because he's not stupid. He knows that you all could have done anything else with that time online and made more money, had more impact. I don't know, selling soap, selling beard creams, right? Like selling eyeglass liquids or selling hat care crap, whatever, some topic that somebody needed or didn't know they needed or whatever, some product somebody didn't know they needed, get rich quick or business, all the different things you can do online that are more lucrative. So I think he would have gave credit to y'all for putting focus on 2A as opposed to giving you shit that it was so much easier for you. Because the thing is, he also had to be aware that what he inspired, and I don't know how much he acknowledges that part, because I'm sure he's humble, right? But he did inspire a bunch of stuff by leading the way. but because it all went in different directions, you know what I'm saying? Like he had to appreciate that element of it too. That, you know, when you spark something, you hope that it creates a flame, but when you spark something and it turns into a bonfire, like that's got to be I'm gonna say pride. I don't know if that's the right word, but a level of satisfaction, right? Accomplishment. So I don't think you would. I mean, you're not saying that he's holding anything against anybody, but I'm just saying.
Oh,
I
no,
think
not at all.
positive, you know, just happiness that it went in so many directions. If anything, I think he might have been surprised that it went in so many directions because just, you know, nobody could have anticipated the internet and what it could do.
Well, I think because again, we told him point blank, like, you know, you're surrounded by people at a rally that are telling you that what you did made a difference and that you were right, that the sacrifices you made, you know what I mean? Those nights, those sleepless nights, even just writing the book, much less editing the book. And again, like you said, back in the day, dude, if you were on a West Coast show, you know, you're waking up early or you're doing all this kind of stuff and you're on the phone to simulcast or whatever with these people. I mean, that's a lot of hours that you did this work. And you're getting told at a rally in 2019 that you made a big difference in people that you never met, didn't know, haven't been in that part of the country. So I think it's pretty cool. And plus, I mean, he is married. So again, as a married dude, being told that you were right, it's very rare. So I think it was just something cool, man, that we were able to tell him this. And I think a lot of people do stuff that we feel maybe I'm doing this because I have to, or the calling, or it's my job. But to have somebody tell you they appreciate it, I think it's really cool. Not wait until after you're gone, after you quit, or after, God forbid, you passed away, that people talk about how much they appreciate you. We did it when he was there. And I feel good about that because it was 100% genuine. Like we were all lined up to see, and he's just standing there waiting to speak like everybody else and taking it all in. And we all lined up like, hey, how you doing? Just glad to see you. And, you know, I've spoken to him before. I'd spoken to him on the phone. I've been on podcasts with him, but I'd never met him in real life. And I thought that was, I mean, the smiles were genuine, man. So that was one of the cooler things I've done as an advocate was actually meeting Reverend Ken and telling him what he meant to me.
That's frustrating that he's leaving, but again, we're not entitled. Maybe that's the word I think of. We're not entitled to his time and his, you know, devotion to this much, you know, time of his, what do you want to call it, like existence on the planet. He's devoted a lot of time, like you mentioned. So, you know, I have split feelings. It's frustrating, but I'm also glad to see that he's taken that advice and doing something else. I think I always say at least that we don't need another Bloomberg, right? We don't need a giant rich person on our side. We also don't need to be dependent on whatever, you know, the heroes or the individuals. It's a shitty thing to say, especially as he's taken off. But you know what I'm saying? There's a valor to that, or there's a distinguish. Is that the right word? Like there's something to it where he's deciding to do it, and it's not a distress thing and it's not a reactionary thing. So I think there's validity. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? It's like, everyone said I'm walking away, but you've also got to get, you know, again, we're not entitled. Like he's allowed to walk away whenever the fuck he wants. And I'm glad that he's walking away in a way that he's deciding and it's positive and not, I'm repeating myself.
He's not walking away due to illness. He's not walking away because, you know, he's destitute. He's like, I did my time. We went as far as we can, and I'm stepping away and I'm closing it down. And that's cool, but he can still pull a Michael Jordan or Brett Favre and come back. You know, he can come back out of retirement, or he can show up on somebody's show, or he can guest appear.
It's not going to be like, I won't be on your podcast or something. Like he's probably going to be around just like he always has been.
Yep. So, I mean, I think it's really cool, man, that he's out there. He's doing what he enjoys. He seems to be enjoying himself. Because I watched him when he started playing 2-3 years ago when he broke out the guitar and started putting it on his Instagram.
And it was like ding, doing, doing, cling, cling, cling.
Yep.
Yep. Just
But
like
since he's great. Yeah, but he put it out there, man, and I'm glad. I'm glad to see someone happy that put in a lot of work and that I feel good about as a human being. That this dude, in my eyes, is a leader and a hero. And he was able to go, hey, I did this work. You can't take it away from me. Not only did he release the book, he re-released the book. So he's done that twice with his book. And went on tours with it, and he's done all of that, and now he's just going into another chapter of his life that he's looking forward to. So I'm glad he was able to do it, make it, and I appreciate him for what he's done.
So I think we're both talking out our ass to some extent because we haven't watched his video. We've just been watching the title of his video and that one instrumental video that I watched. But Mike White, who did watch the video, said he mentioned the big disappointments and figurative slaps in the face. So obviously we should probably listen to it. And then I don't know if you probably are aware, but his wife has been not doing well. So I'm not sure of the situation, but I know he's mentioned it a couple of times. And
I did not. I was not aware of that, and it really blows because my wife has been sick too. And Cam Edwards' wife has been sick. And that was one of the things Cam and I talked about was doing this work again, like Ken has, and then having a loved one that's suffering. And it blows. I'm not even going to get into that. That's personal stuff, but it just sucks. Anybody you care about that doesn't feel well understands that frustration and stress that goes along with that. I ain't special. You know what I mean? I'm not really special with that. It's just another thing.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think the internet still has got a lot of potential. We haven't mastered it yet, but there's a lot of potential there for us to affect each other, to be able to support each other and help each other out physically, mentally. I don't know about physically, mentally, emotionally, maybe is what I was going to say. Just even sometimes just having some strategies or something, being able to hear what other people did for different things, all that kind of stuff can make life so much easier, less stressful. And then, of course, some throw in there financially because we are capitalists and we don't take money from everyone so that everyone can just, get free health care, which some countries act like can happen. That can happen so that some people get really good health care and a bunch of people get shitty health care and everybody pays for it. But I haven't found an example where everyone's just living like in some movie. But in reality, financial things can really be a burden, and it's frustrating because it's tedious. Nobody wants to talk about it, but technically as capitalists, we should be at least able to talk about it, even if we don't want to talk about it, but we should be able to, comfortably support a pretty decent infrastructure of humans if we're not wasting our time on giant bureaucracies. And right now we have national level organizations that, I'm not scorning them, they have some bureaucracy, nowhere near huge bureaucracies that are sucking in all the money, but we can do so much more with the size of our community and the size of our industry and stuff. We see some of it if we switch gears to the military, we can see some, individual efforts to accomplish what the big VA, let's say, can't do, whether that's therapy or aid or some approach to an issue that the VA won't or can't do. So some organizations will come up and either facilitate or even pay for, but often create a lot of the travel and stuff, the ability for someone to get care or some kind of treatment that they wouldn't be able to with the VA. So with the VA, it's a little bit tougher because it's a government thing and we've already paid taxes for it and we want our taxes to be used correctly. But when it's something that we haven't paid taxes for, if it's just our community, we have a lot to learn. I'm not saying we should be communist, but any community of people can support each other without obligation. Is that the right way of saying it? Like nobody should be forced to do it, but there should be all kinds of creative ways to be able to support each other. Even if it's just if somebody had like a weekly fundraiser every Friday, and part of the fundraiser is figuring out where the funds are going to that week so that people could show up and have a good time and raise funds. And then, every week something's being funneled to, financially something's being funneled to a new organization, another organization, and another organization. It's not unreasonable to add that to our mix. We just haven't done it yet. But I guess I'm just ranting.
No, it's 100%.
You're cutting out, or else I'm cutting out. Okay, I'm not hearing anything, so I don't know if it's me or you. Hello? Anything? Anyone? Bueller? There we go.
Charities. Okay, cool. My family's been involved in setting up stuff on a personal level to raise money for people. Like my mother and her husband back in the day would do car shows to raise funds for people that needed it, to do things like projects. And then when he had a stroke, those same people came together to do a car show at my mom's place, and it funded building a ramp and funded his wheelchair. But they'd already established themselves as people that helps others and raise funds to do that for others. So when they needed it, it was already there. You know what I mean? Car show / fish fry / whatever. They put it together as fundraisers when he went down, and it helped take care of a lot of stuff that would have been impossible prior to that. And also they were able to help other family members that had gone through other health problems too.
Dude, when you say fish fries, that's how I think I was, all that stuff I was saying, I was remembering fog, like in a fog, but you cleared it up there. Back in the day, yeah, that's the thing. We'd go somewhere on a weekend and whatever, everybody throw like whatever the time was, $5, $10, it was probably like $20 back then. But some significant, not significant to the individual, but something that, with 1,000 people, it turns into some real money. And that's what they would do, is like what you just said, like help people do something, get something accomplished. And there's a sense, what does that do to the community? You know what I mean? Once the community knows that it builds every week, like every week it's accomplishing something as a community. That's what some of those civic organizations are, right? What are they all called anymore? But like Shriners, is that one? But the Moose and the Elks, those kind of groups, like those people just got together to create community service. Like it's an excuse to do community service projects. I think they were like, I don't know. I don't really know. I'm assuming they didn't want to be religious, like because churches do this too, but you're not allowed to talk about churches doing good work. You're only supposed to be mean to churches, but right, like civic organizations, I'm pretty sure that's what they exist for. At least that's what I remember them accomplishing. So anyway, yeah, we could have that in the community easily enough. It'd be neat. I always talk a lot of shit, but I've been financially crippled here for a couple of years due to my own dumbassness. But once I'm coming out of that, we'll see what we can accomplish, getting things going towards those realms. But all that being said, we kind of started on that because we were talking about personal business, so we probably shouldn't be. But anything else about Ken and his, I think you brought up some great points there, that it's just a closing of a chapter. It's not a closing of the book.
Nope. So he'll be doing something else. And if you follow him on any of the social media, hey, follow him. If you like what he's doing, tell him you like what he's doing. If you don't like what he's doing, keep it to your damn self. Nobody needs to hear that.
All right. Well, we're almost 3 hours and 2.5, but I was looking at, I've been watching because I figured out you can watch who's showing or monitor who's watching on whatever platform. So for whatever reason, I still run this on 2 YouTube channels. I don't know why. I probably should waste my time doing that. But so just it's essentially same amount of people watching on YouTube as on X. So last week it was like 3-1 watching on X. I don't know, whatever reason they're not watching this week. So I'll keep continuing to monitor, but I do know that you can leave comments on X. So if you haven't left comments over there, you can be part of the show. And when you leave a comment, we're using StreamYard, and that only matters because when we use StreamYard, your comment will show up over here, and I can show it up on the screen like this. So you can be literally part of the show by commenting, and that lets us bring it up visually here. And most of the time when we bring something up, we're also going to talk about it, obviously. It doesn't cost nothing. It's just a matter of using the what is it called, X, in a different window, essentially. Because I know you can just watch this, but if you click on it, for me on my computer, at least over on the right, there's a indicator that tells you when people are live. When I click on that, that's where it lets me interact. If I just watch it in my feed, it'll just let me comment on it, but it's not a live comment. It's just a comment in my feed type of thing. And I don't know if that's a issue or if it's a bug or if it's deliberate, but at this point I'm just wondering if it's a habit thing that people are so used to just scrolling Instagram, or what am I saying, Twitter, that they're not used to watching stuff live, so they're not used to commenting, or if it's literally just tedious. Like I don't want to have to click over there and click over there and then click over and then not be in my feed anymore. Like I could see that being annoying if you're used to your just scrolling with your thumb, But anyway, we're not getting many comments from from X, but you are able, and you're welcome to. I guess I'll shut up and let Tony talk about you got a new diversity shoot coming up, or the next diversity shoot coming up.
I have the next diversity shoot coming up this week on the 20th. Son of a biscuit. And I got an appointment on the 19th. So I guess I'm taking 2 days off this week. I have an appointment on the 19th. Thank goodness I just thought of it. With We Shoot in Lakewood, New Jersey, to set up 3 dates. We already have the dates picked out. We're going to take some photos. We're going to have some discussions. We Shoot is stepping up. We're going to have some competitions using a gun of the event. So they actually going to have a Ross Martin 9mm pistol at this event. And we're going to have some shooting competitions with it just for the attendees. And they're going to win some prizes there. We're going to put all that together this week because we're kicking that off in July. It's going to be our first event at We Shoot in Lakewood, New Jersey. So if you want to see what we're doing and where we're going, please go to diversityshoot.com. That's our schedule and our link to our Eventbrite, where I sell tickets. So if you follow me on Tony Simon at Eventbrite, you will get notified through the 170 something followers we have and emails I send out every day for these events. So I can't wait to see you. If you want to support us, we are on Patreon. We're on PayPal. Visit diversityshoot.com and look for the ways you can actually help us out. And if you want, you can contact me at tony@diversityshoot.com if you want to send ammo, if you want to send swag items, if you want to see giveaway items. One of the cooler things you can do, since it's Father's Day, and if you want to help, go to one of the knife companies that we support or that support us, pick up something in about the $20 to $30 range that's a decent knife, and we'll raffle it off at our events. Because I'd hate to give away a more expensive knife as an event and not have the knife people win it. You know what I mean? So like a $20 or $30 knife is okay. They can re-gift it if they want, or they can stick it in their kitchen drawer, in their junk drawer in the kitchen, and maybe they'll use it one day. But it gives us something to raffle off, and that helps raise funds to pay for the pizzas that we order for the event. So if you want to help us out, diversityshoot.com. You can visit me on SimonSaysTrain on Instagram. Second, the number 2, second for everyone on X. Simon Says Train on Facebook. The second is for everyone on Facebook, and Tony Simon on Facebook. So ways to contact me. and ways to follow me on social media. And you can also listen to me every Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Gun and Gear Review Podcast YouTube channel. Yep, I think that's it. Oh, and occasionally I put out I put out a podcast on the Second is for Everyone podcast, available on your favorite podcast app.
I didn't want to interrupt you in there, but you were saying that. No, I'm trying to remember. I was typing when I should have been
New place?
typing. No, the as far as I was wondering, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I often speak for people. I probably should say this offline, but I'm gonna say it online, so I don't care. What about like gun food? If they made I don't know what to call it, maybe like a coupon code, but that coupon code, maybe it would be a coupon code, but maybe it's a coupon code that sends it to you. So let's say somebody would go to Gun Food and buy a case of 9mm, tag it for diversity shoot, and it just gets sent to you. You know what I mean? So that way nobody has to buy it and then send it to you, because that would be outrageously expensive to ship. But then that could just be a thing that people do at gun shops or something, like, oh, I want to buy this for diversity shoot, just send it to Tony. I mean, it'd be tougher with guns, obviously, but with ammo and stuff, is that an issue with New Jersey?
No, it shouldn't be, because it's drop shipped from an ammo manufacturer. I mean, not manufacturer, but a distributor, so it shouldn't be much of a problem.
You can't get hollow points, but essentially, if you were buying it from a company, they know what can and can't be sent to New Jersey, right?
Actually, I can't get hollow points, but I don't need anyone to send me hollow points. So really not even a point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We can have hollow points. Usually, it's just the rules are ridiculous. So don't even ask, because it'll make your head hurt and make you want to punch matches. But that's something to think about. Patrick would probably be open to that. I'd have to find out, though.
Yeah, and like I say, I don't know if it's easy or not. It just seems like, oh, that would be a good match, right? Like, be able to go to an ammo place and say, I'd like to donate to Diversity Shoot, but instead of, because even if they sent you the money, then there's going to be a credit card fee somewhere, transfer fee or something. So that's a couple of $3.
Process it.
$3 on 100, let's say. So, it's a couple of bucks if they send you 20, or it's $1 or $2, $1 and plus, and that can just add up. When you think about it, what are you going to do with it? You're going to buy ammo. Well, what if I just buy the ammo and ship it to you? Anyway, I just was thinking of that off the top of my head. No, it is cool that you got a new place, and that the new place is doing new stuff, and not just like, yeah, sure, you can do your thing here. It sounds like they're super interested in it and looking forward to kind of helping you cut new ground.
Yeah, and since we have all 3 events already planned out, they want the ticket sales up just so they can push it on their website. They want to shoot video. They want to take photos. Like they're going to provide their own photographer. Cool. Glad to have this kind of support behind us. As long as it works for everyone, I have no problem with it. The reason I cut down on doing events at Recoil is because Recoil has allowed us to do what we do, but now Recoil has 1 classroom. So anytime we host a diversity shoot, and we were doing 6 a year, well, that's a 20-person classroom that they could actually be hosting concealed carry classes at $200 a person. You know what I mean? Instead of giving me a 20-person classroom for 3 hours for free, so they could be making $4,000 in the time I'm in that room.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's not like shops are sitting around like, oh, that's another $4,000 of profit. Like, a lot of times that's the only profit, because all the other money was keeping the place alive, and taxes and paychecks and everything. And I'm sure there's not like, oh yeah, I'm gonna throw another $4,000 in gas in the boat.
Yeah, so that's $4,000 they could be making. And again, we do an event 6 times a year. That's a lot of money that they're giving up. So I spoke to them. I was like, look, let's change this up, and we had a discussion, and I really totally understood, because Don't trust me. A guy who does what I do, and it's not a charity, I totally understand. Things cost money, and if it's not helping everybody, why are you going to do it? So I'm just happy we got a new range. We have a couple more in PA, but I think I'm going to wait so we can set it up for 2025. And we may slide across the border yet again into Pennsylvania, work with a range there so we can have things like short barrel rifles, short barrel shotguns, full auto at our diversity shoots without worrying about New Jersey law enforcement sneaking into our events and trying to bust us, because we've had it at multiple events. We've had law enforcement pretending they're not law enforcement. Everybody ain't 21 Jump Street. Some of them you could look at and go, good Lord, dude. You look like a 5'11" ad. Like, what do you mean you're not law enforcement? You're going to get a ticket haircut. And who has those sneakers?
They say perp a lot.
Yeah, yeah, you know what I mean? Ton copy. It's like, oh, bro, what the hell?
There's nobody here named
reading your 5x5.
There's nobody here
named Roger. I'm sorry, 10-9. I mean, I didn't hear you. Could you repeat that, please? Yes. I mean, only a couple are obvious, and I'm sure we might have had others. But it's like, bro, we're here to educate people. No one's here talking about overthrowing the government or anything like that, or even violating your stupid laws. But I will stand here and tell people they're stupid and dangerous, and they should vote against it. And I'll also tell them that police have no duty to protect you as an individual. And if any of that upsets you as a police officer, well, that's a you problem. I won't tell anybody to intentionally break the law, and I'll try to inform people what laws are. I don't think it's my job to try to influence people to break the law, because I really don't feel like running GoFundMes to help people get people out of jail. I'd rather influence people to vote, become politically active, and to make actual change.
All right. Well, we could keep going, but we would keep going.
Time to go.
So, yeah, I'm going to pull the plug just so that we keep it a concise 3-hour show. This is 2 weeks in a row that we let it go long. But every once in a while, I'm super busy and I got to cut it quick, or Tony's doing something and we cut it quick. So these are your bonus episodes. It's like a real cake. Like you go to a factory. You get one of them factory cakes. Every slice is perfect. Every slice is the same size. It's really good for communism. But sometimes you want a big slice of cake. Other times you just want a little slice of cake. That's what we offer. And we do it classic. Yep. We wipe the knife off each time, so each piece of cake looks all sweet, like if a robot cut it. But we're doing it. It's handmade.
Handmade.
Nice.
Speaking of cake.
Go ahead.
Speaking of cake, funniest thing I ever saw, a multi-layered chocolate cake, with the thin layers. Someone called it goth lasagna. Thought it was hilarious. I'm like, I just found a new name for chocolate cake.
That is really good. That's one of my favorite cakes, period, is when they give you all that excuse to have extra frosting on there. There's Instagram channel. I haven't done it in a while, but for a while there I was looking at a lot of food stuff on Instagram, and or at least Instagram was feeding me a bunch of food pictures, and I was looking at them. And there's I can't remember the name of it, but there's a name for that kind of chocolate cake in Europe somewhere, because they keep showing me this bakery in Europe, and they'd be like, hey, somebody ordered a slice, and it's incredibly big. It's like a foot deep of those slices or whatever, and they were showing all the makings of it. And yeah, I'm like, dang, that would be, you only eat like a little tiny sliver slice, but it's of this giant cake, it's like massive, like a giant wedding cake, and they sell you like a little slice, but that slice is probably equivalent of like 3 slices over here. Anyway, but it's that. So if anybody can help a brother out, I'm trying to figure out how to get paid. I just went past 24 million views Nice.
on freaking Google of my food reviews. So if anybody can figure out how I can turn this into, look, and I'm not asking for much, just a penny of view.
Seriously, what would that be? That would be nice.
I don't even know because the math hurts my head, but I'm thinking like $240,000 or $24,000. I forget what.
I'm gonna actually put my head on that because you've mentioned it a couple of times, and I've actually talked about that with other people just as conversations went kind of near it, because we've talked about it before, and I brought it up because I'm kind of curious if there's got to be a way to do something with that, and I've never gotten a great answer, but so I don't want to like leech on that I've heard something good or something, but maybe it's worth doing doing a workshop on it. If nothing else, I might find something, but if nothing else, to kind of put the call out there for, like you just did, for somebody who does know, just to say what's up, because that would be interesting.
I mean, because
as soon as I get back on the road,
I've thought
I'm
about it.
definitely going to engage that.
Yeah, I've thought about it for 7 seconds today. And one of the things it might be was just as an intro to starting a new social media channel, as an intro that I have, over 20 something million views. I mean, that's giving you something unique that other people don't have. And it's big numbers, you know what I mean? And it's something I can back up with screenshots. So,
And
I mean, it just
on
might,
Google. Google doesn't just give views. Google qualifies a view, which so like on Facebook and some of the other platforms, if somebody browses past, it's a view. On YouTube, typically they don't want, because people are paying big money for these views. They're not trying to get in trouble, so they qualify a view. You have to be there for 30 seconds. You have to be an account somebody signed in on. So we might see a number fluctuate here and there, but the recorded numbers will only be people that watched for this much time and are actually valid channels. So we can take that number and tell somebody, hey, this many people watched our YouTube video. It's not just some made up arbitrary number of like 1 million people that saw a street sign. This is a bunch of people that actually sat there and watched your video for 30 seconds, so probably absorbed a little bit of it. And you could probably even dig down and find out how many people watched the whole video, type of thing. But anyway, yeah, that kind of stuff is valid when you're talking about it. I'm just saying from YouTube, like, because some places will say like, oh, you got 1 million views, but we can't prove it. YouTube can back up every inch of that, like every number of those. And you don't just get that. That's also a significant amount of time. Like that shows people that you've invested in this for a while.
Yep. So we'll see what happens. I mean, if not, truthfully, the reason I started doing it, and again, this is Google reviews. So the reason I started doing it is just because my memory sucks. And sometimes you hate going to a restaurant that kind of sucks. And then 6 months later, stopping by and going to the restaurant again because you forgot that it kind of sucks. So I just wrote it up. So if I'm going somewhere, I can look, where am I going to eat? Oh, I did a review on this 2 years ago, and it was horrid. No thanks.
Dude, that's super smart, though, because now you can, because I'm the type that I'll give a place a second try. Like a place can be having a bad night. A place could have gotten bad deliveries in or something. And the manager was bad, a million reasons. So I'll go to a place twice. And if it's the same, never again, right? Or, whatever your recipe is, your formula is. But yeah, that can be the notebook for that. Plus, after 5 years or 10 years, you're willing to try a place again, right? Like just to make sure that something hasn't changed, right? Especially if it's close by, you're like passing it every day. It's like, all right, I'm going to try it again. Oh, nope, still bad. But I think also just to, because for me, at least, because I don't know, mostly I try to buy from a vegan section of the menu if they got it. And usually it's weird, gross shit because it's, I don't know what they think people eat, but they're like, oh, let's experiment over in the vegan section. So it's some kind of weird beans and things. So anyway, I don't always remember. So my goal isn't to eat weird things, but sometimes I have to if I want to eat that way. So anyway, I would say one of the reasons I have my list is exactly that. I'll keep track of what I ate with a picture or two. And that way I know, oh yeah, I hate that. I'm not getting that again. Or at this place, I always get this, but I haven't tried everything yet. And if I'm going to go back to a place 6 times and they've got 5 things on the menu, I might as well try everything, even if I don't love it. I'd want to know what it is usually. I don't know. Are you like that? If you go back to somewhere regularly, do you try different stuff or do you go back to the same thing you like all the time?
Nope, just did it last week. Went to a place, ordered their cheesesteak, and because there's a cheesesteak and wing place, that's what they're known for. Well, I hit the cheesesteak up, got a sundae, a small sundae from them, and fries. Fries were some of the best fries I ever had. Cheesesteak. I'm not saying it was horrid. I just didn't enjoy it. Um, so I made sure I went back this week because I was near that place again, and I tried a different chicken cheesesteak, and I tried their wings out. Wings were delicious, and again, cheesesteak kind of failed. So I'm thinking,
What's New Jersey cheesesteak? Is that Cheese Whiz?
this particular one was provolone. The
Okay.
chicken was provolone,
Okay.
and they have the classic. They have different types of steaks, cheesesteak, and some of them are with whiz, some of them with provolone. However the heck you want to make it, but the two I've had were weak, really weak. But they're small, is decent size, and if you enjoy it, you enjoy it. I didn't enjoy either one of them. I won't eat those again, but I will definitely have their wings. I had Korean barbecue and was it mango habanero? They have a 10-piece, and I got two and two, and they were delicious. And the fries were great, and the sundaes were off the hook.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely. Well, we'll have to go off air. We could have just
Mhm.
ended in 3 hours, but we could go have a whole nother show. We should just do half of the show with guns and stuff, and the other half of the show with food. Defense.
Yeah, the
Citizen
food thing will take off.
Seriously, no, the food thing is so much easier. It's like throwing a kite or a sail into the wind. When we throw gun stuff out there, it's like we're throwing guns tied on a string and see how far they fly. Like they don't fly very far. Like if you're lucky, you can wing them a little distance. You know, we can make some headway with gun content. If we're really, really, really good, we can attach some kind of kite to the gun, but gun stuff is just not going anywhere. But you do food stuff, there's no resistance, literally no resistance.
Mhm.
And you can do shit like if you did a barbecue channel, you talk about vegan stuff once in a while, and vice versa. If you do a vegan thing, you talk about barbecue stuff once in a while, and it gets that just a little bit of bullshit controversy, that nonsense controversy that will give it
Mhm.
the views. And there's like literally recipes you could just play on that, or somebody that likes whatever steak or something, and you have somebody that, or hamburgers and hot dogs, something like that. Just two opposing things that you could just. There's a million recipes for that stuff.
Yeah, people are willing to argue over anything. Flats and wing. Was it flats and drums with the chicken wings? Which is best?
Oh, which half of the wing you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I
Meanwhile,
can say, I have eaten chicken wing before, but I quit eating all that stuff so long ago that like the whole barbecue, what is it called, buffalo wing phenomenon, I don't think I've ever eaten a buffalo wing. So,
well, the funny thing with me is, again, as someone who cooks my own food, when you look at wings for sale, they consider each piece of the wing, they count that as a wing. I'm like, no, that's half a wing.
yeah, back in my day, that's what I'm
I'm
saying. Like, I always just called it wing. Like Kentucky Fried Chicken somehow got 5 pieces out of a chicken because they did that weird piece, but everybody else, you get 4 pieces out of a chicken, right? Like churches or whatever, there was like 4 pieces: leg, wing, breast, or thigh, and that was it. And you got that quarter of the chicken essentially, right? And nowadays, I don't even know what they do, but yeah, it's weird that they're going to chop a wing in half. But back in the day, chickens were different than they are. I bet you wings are way bigger than they used to be. I'm just assuming. Like, if you could go back to Churches or Popeyes or something back in '89 when I quit eating that shit, and I almost never ate fried chicken. I did never like fried chicken. They had to make me eat that, so I never liked eating birds. But I'm just saying, I don't know. Can you remember back then? But I bet you the chickens were smaller back then. That's all I'm saying. I think they were just like a different breed or whatever they call it. They made chickens bigger. For like nuggets and stuff, they've made chickens more white meat, and they look all different. They look all like a big fat chicken, essentially, like a big puffy chicken.
Yeah, they look weird now
compared to the
it's
chicken
like
that
the chicken
from the cartoons and stuff.
Oh yeah, the chicken you have in your head does not look like the chicken they breed.
So I'm guessing they look like big muscular chickens with like big wings, right? I'm assuming.
Well, they're big at an earlier age.
Well, that's
They're
for sure.
big at an earlier age. That way they roll them out. Roll them in, roll them out. Their meat. Next. Oh, all right. Let's get off this show, man.
Yeah. So, ranch or blue cheese for wings, and why are you a commie?
Blue cheese. I'm an adult. Blue cheese. I'm an adult.
I've never enjoyed ranch ever. There wasn't a thing back in the day. I think I can remember when that ranch dressing first came out, but even back then I would be like, I could have the same thing with cheese in it or the one that doesn't have any cheese in it. And it tastes almost exactly the same. I'll take the blue cheese, please.
Yeah. Because blue cheese actually have taste.
Yeah. Although, I mean, I've seen some tangy ranches. I've had some tangy ranches, but anyway, so yeah, that's the ketchup of condiments for wings, I'm guessing. Like nobody dips a wing in ketchup, right?
Yeah, not if they're going to eat with me. It is fun because food can be fun. One of my guys, we went out to eat, and I took him to this hot dog place that specialized in hot dogs. And it's like they sit in the back and invent ways of serving a hot dog and then give it a name. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of fun. I take one of my guys there. Now, again, they have every combination you can think of. Dom orders, yeah, just like a plain dog, please, with honey mustard. Yo, you think somebody kicked the record player, yo. This place has hot dogs with pork and beans on it and coleslaw. And Dom ordered a plain hot dog with honey mustard, and everybody just stopped and looked at him like, what kind of weird ass shit is that? And the lady said, you meant to say honey mustard? He was like, yeah, honey mustard. So we all go outside, and of course, we're coworkers. So we're busting his balls relentlessly. Like, who the hell eats a hot dog with honey mustard, bro? Who hurt you, dog? it was great. I'm like, you're at a place where they invent hot dog stuff, and I don't think anyone ever has ordered this before and never will again. And he just sit there with honey mustard smeared over his hot dog and enjoyed himself. With us staring at him like he was. What?
When you eat a hot dog, do you like when they're on a grill, or like they roll them around on a grill, or like when they boil them in water, like a sausage?
I think these were boiled. The ones that he ordered were boiled in water. The ones I ordered were fried.
Oh, okay. So if you eat
because they cook them different ways too.
Right, exactly. Have you eaten them where they take chopsticks and lay it down next to the hot dog, and they chop the shit out of it, but it doesn't go all the way through because of the chopsticks, and then they change the angle a little bit and chop the shit out of it, and it comes out kind of like I don't know, but it opens up like.
So I've done that myself. I've done that myself in the air fryer because it gives you all the crispy edges.
Yeah, see, I never ate that before, but if I was going to eat a sausage, I'd fucking want to try that because nobody ever did that back in the 80s. So that seems like that would be fun to eat. I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, so I decided to try that. Yeah, I decided to try to do that on my own because it's kind of like, when you eat brownies and a lot of people want the edge of the corner of the brownies from the pan because that's the crispy. They like the crispy brownie.
Yeah, it's chewy and it's like a gross cake. Yeah.
Yeah, so somebody actually invented a pan that had nothing but crispy edges. The whole thing was just edges. It was just small blocks, almost like doing it in the old school ice tray. Keeping it thin and making brownies in like the old school. Remember the metal ice trays?
Sure.
So that was pretty much what they came up with. So every brownie was like maybe 2 inches by 2 inches. And they didn't fill it.
You just yank on a thing and it comes out of the center, then like the ice cream.
Yep, and there you are with all these pretty much brownie edges and not a bunch of thick, moist cake. So I mean, that's what I looked at when I sliced up the hot dogs and cooked them. Is like, oh, dude, everything's like. So I've done that. One of the annoying things about cooking and being able to cook and then trying to go to restaurants is the fact that, especially since COVID, a lot of restaurants have fallen off in quality, but price has gone up. And as somebody that started writing, restaurant reviews years ago, I'm like, we're not getting as much food because I have photos. You know what I mean? I have pictures. We're not getting as much food, and it seems like they've changed vendors or the quality of that food is falling. So, I mean, hey, life goes on. Life goes on. Things change. And we'll be the old people in the back of the barbershop talking about how big a cake used to be or a pie, how
Yeah.
much hot dogs used to cost. We all get there.
You know how it had to be weird though? Think about like our grandparents, because you can see this by watching a movie from the 70s. And I guess we're on a tangent. But back in the day, you could watch a movie and they'd be like, let me get a hot dog and a Coke or something. Because they almost never ordered like everything we order with fries and all the other stuff.
Mm-mm.
Or other things. They would be happy with like a hot dog and a cup of coffee. Now, there's a chance that they were just blowing off the order because it was a movie, but it's too common. Like you see it in all these movies. People just eat like one piece of food. I'll order a cupcake and a cup of coffee.
Mhm.
Or whatever.
Yep.
And the cup of coffee is like a little bit bigger than a shot glass. It's not like an espresso cup, but it is certainly not no thermos of coffee or nothing. And then it's just some little slice of pie. And they'll eat like half of it and get up and run away or whatever. And it's just so the portion sizes and stuff were crazy small back in the day. And somewhere in there, like our grandparents, I'm guessing, because I can remember going to a Circle K. Well, it was a 7-Eleven back in the day. I would go to 7-Eleven when big gulps were a thing in Slurpees and all that. And you'd come home with like a giant cup of, I'm guessing that 32 ounces was huge. So I'm guessing these were like 16 ounces and we thought they were huge because we were little. But we'd come home with a giant thing of Slurpee and it was still mostly frozen. And to my grandparents or whatever, who were probably getting dime candy, that had to be like the whole family's going to eat out of that on a Sunday or something. Like, what do you mean that one kid's eating? That's why I'm super fat. It's because growing up eating like the 16 ounces of sugar like that, I don't know, 3 times a Saturday or 4 times, however many times I could waddle over and grab another one from the Circle K. Because back in the day, you could just look around for coins, right? And then I keep saying Circle K. They didn't have Circle Ks back then. They had sort of 7-Elevens, but the convenience store on the corner.
7-Elevens, yeah.
Whatever those things cost, you could scrounge. You could just go out on the streets and find coins. I think we may have needed to recycle once in a while, but I think you could just find nickels and dimes. They were probably 25 cents or something back in the day. So I can remember never being wanting for a Slurpee. And we didn't really get allowances or nothing, so we didn't have to like...
Not at all. Not at all.
I mean, it was like once in a while you'd get paid to do something amazing, like clean out the garage or something and weed the entire garden or something. You'd get something, but yeah, most of the time it was just don't come home until night and you wanted a Slurpee, you figured out how to get 25 cents. But whatever, now we're definitely on tangents. Yeah, we already said what we're talking about. So thanks everybody for joining us. A couple of y'all are still here. You're not saying anything on the X, which again is... We're getting used to it. But definitely the people on YouTube have been saying, hey, I was telling Defense Dad, since nobody's showing up at his work because of the tornado watch, this is a perfect time to text a 95% off sale for a limited time till the end of the day or something like that. So
nice.
You can always remember we had a 95% off sale. You just didn't take advantage of it. You have to be in-store
pay
only.
attention.
In-store only. And then that'll give somebody something to think about when they're, something to distract them from the tornado warning. We laugh, but I've never had to actually... I mean, I guess I've dealt technically with a tornado warning, but I've never actually seen a tornado, so I have no idea what they actually do. You ever had to deal with them, or I'm being nonchalant about this?
And that tornado warnings, we've done the tsunami because I lived in Japan.
Oh, shit.
That was different. A thing.
I'm scared of the ocean. I'm not as scared of clouds. I'm honestly not as scared of clouds. Like, no, fuck off. The ocean, I'm scared of.
Oh, yeah, because when the ocean decides it's going to come and get you, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
It's a real thing.
Yeah. It doesn't stay put all the time.
Yeah, nobody talks about that one. Oh, the ocean is dangerous. Man, the ocean can be dangerous when you're on land.
And you're just minding your business looking at it. At least I've seen that happen.
Yeah,
so.
And we had idiots because, again, I was in the Marine Corps and we're dumb. So it didn't happen to me. So I'll go ahead and say that. It happened in Okinawa. I was not in Okinawa. I was on mainland. They had the tsunami warnings. You get your ass inside. Like, I had a house out in town and my girl lived there. So I went there to be with my chick. You know, why? I have a whole barracks I could be in, but I went and stayed with her. One of the dudes decided in the barracks, because the winds were whipping at 90 miles an hour, that he was going to tie bed sheets to his ankles and his wrists. And when the gust of wind got real, jump off the third floor like Superman and fly. He did. The wind caught him and freaking took off. And he was actually flying, which was really cool. Until the wind stopped and folded the sheet around him like a mummy about 5 stories in the air in the middle of a football field.
Oh, damn.
So he dug in like a lawn dart from 5 stories. Broke both his arms, his leg. So, of course, they had to rush him to the emergency room on base and eventually charge him with destruction of government property.
Yeah, that's messed up. That'll
Himself.
happen too.
Himself. Yep.
Because they'll do it as
All right,
a
man.
what do they call that? As a warning to everybody else to not be a dumbass. I can understand why you do that, thinking like, "Oh, I'll glide to the ground. Like I won't die because I'll just slowly glide to the ground. Like there'll be enough wind to keep me from, rushing to the ground. I'll slowly glide to the ground. This will be awesome." And then it takes your wings. It's horrible. Yeah.
Oh, dude, it was like, I mean, for a few minutes, it had to be, for a few seconds, it had to be terrifying until you realize, holy crap, I'm a human being and I'm flying like a bird with nothing but a sheet. And then it had to be pure freaking terror, but really short-lived. When all that wind stopped and you couldn't even move your arms and legs, and there's nothing you can do to brace yourself from that high up. So he just dug in. Luckily, there's a lot of rain, so the field was, muddy. So it wasn't like hitting dry dirt. And the guys are just estimating how high he was, but they were like, he was over the roof.
Dude, falling 6 feet is a pain. It will literally break you. So, well, when you're young and full of muscles, you probably got a little bit more resistance, but still, obviously it hurt him.
Yeah.
So, at least he didn't do it on a boat, because then you'd just be talking about the guy who did that. Yeah, he'd be gone. Well, actually, he did it on an island. That's just as bad. So he's lucky he didn't get pulled off the other side of that island.
Yep.
All right, now we definitely are talking shit. So I think we'll end it. We'll throw a commercial up here for Gizzards' show. I need to get one for Brooke's show. So this show will end, and you'll be recommended to head over to Brooke Cheney's Suicide Prevention Saturday. It won't be on for a few hours, but if you are around, I encourage you to check it out. She offers a weekly focus on mental health awareness and suicide prevention. We all know as gun owners that they use suicide deaths against us, and Brooke helps normalize those topics and that conversation. And it's definitely a project that's worth your time if you've got it. And even if you don't, please share it and help get the word out. She is the way that gun channels are persecuted on the social platforms, because the platforms themselves create policies based out of, I'm going to say ignorance, so unawareness of guns. The unawareness of suicide is probably worse, because they don't differentiate between the negative parts of that and people who are trying to create awareness and end the issue. So I know because my channel gets persecuted. I just got persecuted on my show last night. So she could definitely use all the help you can offer, sharing the show and just linking to it. Because again, the logarithms or the mechanisms behind all this aren't going to do that for her. But I don't have a commercial for her yet, but the show will link you to her channel later on. But I also have a commercial here for Gizzard, so we'll end it with Gizzard's commercial here.
This is Earl Benson reporting from downtown Topeka, where Gizzard Gary is rampaging through the city. Authorities have asked the public to stay indoors. They believe he will tire soon and need a nap. Gizzard Gary can normally be seen on Foul Territory Friday nights at 7 p.m. Central. Wednesday, 8 p.m. for the channel members chat. Stay safe and give him the bird. Earl Benson signing off.